This is the Patriots Catch-22 podcast with Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
I'm Evan Lazar. Evan Lazar.
Hello, everybody.
Nailed it. Joined as always by Alex Barth. That's a fit. That's a match. No risk it, no biscuit.
22.
Here is Evan Lazar and Alex Barth.
So, do you want to bet on raw speed or raw strength?
You know my answer to that.
I know.
Because I can tell Chris Brazzell when he gets here on April 25th or whatever, the day after the first round, hey, buddy, hit the weight room.
Well, he's going great in shorts on April 25th. You're going to be all excited at training camp.
You know, rookie mini camp. He's going to run a 9-round. I'm going to be like, hell yeah.
You know exactly who we will bring up. That's fair. You can hit the weight room. You can hit the weight room. You can't hit the speed room. That's fair. Yeah. That is fair.
All right, everybody. I can't hear anything in here, Ace, so that's why I can't. Not that I need to hear anything from this point on, I guess. But we didn't hear the lovely open, which is actually pretty fine with me because I'm one of those people. I hate hearing the sound of my own voice. I don't like my voice. I hate hearing it. It's one of those types of things I have to get over in this industry, but that's just the way that I am. I guess we do have to hear the callers. You're right.
I don't mind hearing my voice. I just don't like seeing myself on camera.
Oh, it's both. It's both. Right? Like, you don't. I would rather not. Now, every once in a while, you got to do it. And when we got GMAT on the case, I got to watch myself and watch the tape. Have him grade me and all that good stuff. So it's fun. Yeah, we're good now. We're good now. I didn't know when we were starting. We were just talking about our approach to very lazy approaches to college that we got through. I was actually talking to Mike Reese yesterday. I think it's his daughter is nearing the end of high school, and I swear we're good on topic after this. Near the end of high school, so she's kind of looking at colleges, and one of the college fine establishments she's looking at. Ithaca College.
There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was talking it up. So that was fun. No Socks, also a bomber as well from a different chapter of history, but same college. All right. Hello, everybody. Evan Lazar, Alex Barth, Ace Behind the Glass. That's how you know it's an off-season show when I ramble like that about nonsense.
This isn't even the real off-season, though. I saw some tweet the other day that was like the dead season of the NFL.
Not even close.
We are not remotely close to the dead season.
No, that's
we will get to the dog days of summer, my friends.
That's June and July, which here at this stadium is going to be World Cup Central.
Yeah, I don't know what it's going to look like.
It's going to be tough.
I'll tell you this, I'll be coming from the beach.
Yeah, that's the dead period of the offseason is right after minicamp ends and the spring practices end for the players, and then it doesn't start up again until training camp, and that's when everybody goes on vacation. So today's show, we'll start with some news. I'll get to some of these 30 visits reported. I should mention 30 visits, pro days, all that good stuff. Alex and I were both out in Chestnut Hill at Boston College on Monday, so not a ton of top prospects coming out of that program this year, but still some things to talk about.
There's at least one legit Patriots target.
Yep, and we were there with Mike Vrabel and Ryan Cowden and Doug Marrone, Mike Smith, the Patriots outside linebackers coach, Tony Kinkela, their director of college scouting. So they had a nice contingent on hand.
I'll just throw this out there, too, because I got this question when we were listing off the names. People wondering where Elliot Wolf was.
Yes.
He was at his alma mater, right?
Mater.
The U?
Yes.
Yeah, so he was down at the U for that pro day, which was apparently a main event this year.
Apparently, unbelievable, those defensive linemen. I guess they put on an absolute show.
For everything we hyped up, we being like college football fans, that Ohio State defense, and I still think that Ohio State defense is, one of the best we've seen in college football this decade. That Miami defense, looking back on it, slept on, underrated, some real talent. I really hope we do recency bias, guys, today. I got a couple. Certainly somebody, I was texting you about him the other day on that Miami defense. Not one of the linemen, actually, in the secondary. But
the whole defense.
The whole defense is
a
ton of talent. But, Fernando Mendoza didn't really play anybody. So
let's, since we're on the subject of the pro days, we can start to go through some of the pro day stuff that I wanted to hit on. Let's just start with BC. I know it's not the biggest program. I know it's not, Miami or LSU or Alabama or something like that. But you mentioned a couple guys that are realistic Patriots targets. And I think they have 3 or 4 of those guys on day 3 that if they end up being Patriots somewhere, like I said, on the 3rd day of the draft, none of us would be surprised. But I was also just a little bit, I thought it was cool watching Got to watch him last year too, do the same type of thing. But Vrabel just can't help himself. Like when there's football going on, and he tries in the beginning to kind of stay in the back a little bit and be a little bit more hands off, especially during the athletic testing portion. I think he could really care less about what the stopwatch says. But as soon as those positional drills started for the linemen, especially, but really particularly the offensive linemen, he was right in the middle of that thing, and he's given pointers and coaching tips on the fly to guys that he might not ever even coach. I just think that it's an itch that he has to scratch when he's around the game, when he's around football, when he's around a practice type setting like that. He just can't help himself. So
yeah, I mean,
watching him is kind of fun, honestly.
And he's talked about this, right? His parents are teachers and coaches. Like, he's a teacher at heart, and he wants to teach. Whether he's gonna, I think there's something in it, instinctive in that. Like, he may not end up coaching the guy at the NFL level, but he sees somebody, he has information, he can impart on them, and he wants to do that because that's just his instinct, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah, so Vrabel is in the middle of a lot of the line drills, as you could expect. Doug Marrone was running the offensive line drills, which isn't too surprising, and then Mike Smith was basically running the pass rush drills for the outside linebackers too. So the Patriots were heavily involved. I think it's great. I understand that some people have questions of, well, should Mike Vrabel be with Elliott Wolf at Miami or be at one of these other big pro days? I believe Clemson might have been in the same day range or something like that as well. Like, should he be, no disrespect whatsoever to Boston College, but, at a bigger pro day?
Just the volume. Like, there's more players.
And I think that it's really cool that he supports Bill O'Brien, which is the biggest thing, of course. Bill O'Brien gave him his first job in the NFL with the Houston Texans as their linebackers coach. So it's a little bit of that. It's a little bit of giving some buzz to the BC Pro Day. I would probably go just because I'm a sicko. I don't know if as many media would show up if they knew that Mike Vrabel wasn't coming. So there was a good amount of media contingent there because of his presence. So I think he's trying to do a friend a solid, but at the same time, the biggest name to me that coming out of that program that I actually really find very interesting is Jude Bowie, their tackle, who had a really good combine, tested over a 9 relative athletic score. Do you say RAS or RAS?
RAS.
Okay, over 9 RAS.
If I'm going to say it, I'd say RAS, not RAS.
At the combine, very, very athletic tackle. Training with Dante Scarnecchia, which is always fun. I mean, that's been going on since O'Brien got to BC, so not really necessarily a huge thing, but always just a little interesting anecdote. But watching,
I do think it's interesting too, and he talked about this just to throw on top of that. Not only has he worked with Dante Scarnecchia on the side, he worked with Doug Marrone because Marrone worked at BC before he was here. So very familiar with the way the Patriots want their offensive line run.
So all those guys last year, Kendall, Trapillo, they all went through the same thing where they worked with Marrone and then trained for the draft with Dante Scarnecchia. They did end up with Jack Conley, for a little bit. He had a cup of coffee with the Patriots, was on the 90-man roster during training camp. So they did have somebody in the building that was through that pipeline. But Jude Bowie, I think, is strongly in play with 125 or 131 in the 4th round, if he even gets to that.
I was going to say it might be 95.
Yeah.
Because I'll give you this exercise real quick, but this happens every year. There's not enough tackles. And, now when I look at the consensus board, I kind of add just 20, 30 picks to every tackle. Remember, Caden Wallace was an example of this.
Yes.
Caden Wallace went earlier than projected, but in terms of like the order of tackles, he went where he was supposed to go, whatever he was, like the 8th, 9th, 10th tackle, because they were all just going early. So, just to give you right now where they are in the consensus board, Evan, the true tackles. So this is not, we'll go through it. So Maui Goa is 6, Fano is 11, Monroe Freeling is 12, Caden Proctor's 21, Caleb Lomu is 22, Blake Miller's 31, Maxi Honachor's 38. So all potential either locks or potential first-round picks.
Right.
So Maxi Honachor, again, 38. The next tackle, just how the big board has it, the consensus big board that we use, is Jennings Dunker at 59. Now, 1, that's a 20-pick drop. And 2, Jennings Dunker
is a guard.
Probably not a tackle.
Yeah.
Next up, Caleb Tiernan,
Guard.
69. Guard, that's right. So,
32 and a quarter inch arms.
Maxi Honachor, again, is 38.
Yeah.
The next true tackle on the consensus board
Is Cronover, right?
at 103.
Yeah.
So are you telling me we are going to go 70-something picks without a tackle? There's basically going to be no tackles on day 2. No, that's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen, but I think that there's a chance that there's a very wide gap.
So there might be a gap, but like
and the next guy.
But okay, so Crownover's at 103.
Yeah.
Next up is Brian Parker at 108.
Right.
He might be a center.
Yeah.
He's a guard or a center. Then it's Bowery at 119, Markel Bell at 126.
Right, and then Isaiah World's in there, but he's coming off the injury.
Coming off torn ACL.
Right.
Austin Barber's in there 133 if we want to put him in that same group. But like, here's my point. Ihanacho on the big board is at 38.
Yeah.
Even if he falls a little bit, because there's more first-round tackles, right? Okay, so he goes somewhere in the 40s. Are we going 40 picks without a tackle?
Probably not. But
Okay.
but when we do this,
But
there's going to be
my point.
But there's going to go ahead.
No, because I'm going to explain. You're talking about the run. I'm going to explain it.
Right.
So Crownover, who's at 103 on the big board, now goes somewhere in the 70s or 80s. Well, okay, you're looking at that as a team. He's 20 or 30 picks ahead of where he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for Jude Bowie at 119 because are there going to be another 30, 40 picks? Like, is Crownover going to be the only tackle to go between 40 and 120? Sure. So now he gets bumped up. So, 119, he might be about the 100 to 120th best player in the draft. He's going to go higher than that because there's not enough tackles. So if they want, I think Jude Bowery is very relevant to the Patriots.
Very.
Because if they're not going to take Blake Miller or Ihanacho at 31 or after a slight trade back, you're probably talking about 95 being where you're going to get that developmental right tackle. I don't think it's 125. Maybe it's 125, but you're getting a lesser player. That's maybe where you're talking about Isaiah World, who's coming off a torn ACL, or Markel Bell, who's all frame and really is a projection.
Yeah.
If you want a guy that's going to come in, a potential year one guy, not a day one guy, but a potential year one guy, I think you're talking about 95, and it's Crownover, it's Bowery, and it's Austin Barber you might be able to wait on a little bit. But I think Jude Bowery is really, really, really relevant to the Patriots.
Agreed. I think that they're different type of players too, him and Crownover. Crownover is your typical power-based tackle prospect that we've seen in the past kind of on that right side with the Patriots. I always go back to like Marcus Cannon, right? Who's that big, powerful tackle, bulldozing tackle. That would be Crownover. Bowery is an athlete. Like Bowery, in my opinion, out of all of these guys, like he has the best pass protection tools because he has that ability to get out of his stance. He's extremely, what the offensive line guys like to call springy, where he just kind of bounces out of his stance and he's able to get to landmarks really quickly in his pass set and cut off those initial angles. He can range, he has good range at pass protection. He can move his feet. He's got good foot speed to mirror rushers high side and escort them past quarterbacks. We saw in the on-field drills his work in the zone blocks, the reach blocks, the backside cutoffs, things like that. Really impressive speed to power conversion, leverage, ability to get out in space. He looked different reaching, especially than the other guys that were going through the drill. And they have some other guys. Logan Thomas is going to be maybe a late day 3, priority free agent type of player. So it's not like they had no other offensive line talent that was working out. He looked different than those guys. The one thing that I would say, well, I guess it's kind of related to two things. His Clemson tape was up and down, and that's the best competition he faced. He went up against TJ Parker a handful of times. He allowed 5 pressures against Clemson. In particular, just from what is the issue, he mentioned that he's been working on his punch with Dante Scarnecchia. That is the biggest thing in his game right now that needs refinement, is his punch, especially his outside hand. I would say, and I'm sure there's a more technical way to put this, it's a particularly weak outside hand. And so once he gets engaged with the rusher, TJ Parker especially was able to just kind of power right through his punch. And then that creates a soft corner, a soft edge, and then you're at the quarterback, right? So I really like a lot of elements of his game. I actually think that his anchor and like his base is pretty sturdy. Yeah. He just has to improve his hands, and maybe Coach Scar can get him there by the time his rookie season comes around. And I just look at him as a perfect swing tackle early on in his rookie contract, potentially pushing for starting role. I think that he could also play inside, potentially, if you wanted him to do that instead, if that was where the opportunity presented itself.
And we talked about it last week. Having a little extra depth on the inside, just given Vera Tucker's injury history and Jared Wilson's going to be a first-year starter at center, they might want a little extra depth on the inside, and maybe that manifests itself in a 4-position backup swing tackle rather than just keeping an extra guard.
Yeah. Who else did you like there? Because I think, I don't know if he's for them because of their situation at wide receiver. I don't know if they need another one of these guys, but I was pretty impressed with Lewis Bond. And I watched his tape over the weekend just to have some sort of background on him before the pro day. And look, like is he too much like Efton Chisholm? Probably. That's probably redundant to Efton Chisholm, but if they feel like Efton Chisholm needs to be pushed or isn't, the answer or whatever the case may be, really efficient route runner, really crisp at the first 2 levels, understands all of the nuances of that role from a mental processing standpoint with coverage, sure-handed. Yeah. There's a lot of things to like. I like that he's got a little bit more girth and size to him than some of the, Pop Douglas, Josh Downs type slots. He's 5'10", 5'11", 190 pounds. I just don't know if they need another player in that mold. It's kind of redundant.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same about Lewis Bond and Logan Taylor. I think they both bring something to the table. Taylor's a multi-position offensive line backup. He might be able to play 4 spots. Bond's just kind of a sure-handed, steady wide receiver. I got to see both of them in person, but really Bond when I did those sideline games for DC last year, and like he stands out. Like he looks different. He looks the way you'd want an NFL player to look on the field with college players, especially when they played Notre Dame. Like I thought he had a solid performance against the best opponent I saw them against, at least. But I'm with you. Like with Lewis Bond, he's too similar to Efton Chisholm. Yeah. Logan Taylor, I think, is pretty similar to Ben Brown. Yeah. And that he's going to play a similar role. With either of them, I'd be like, I think they're good football players. Bring them in if, as a UDFA. I think especially, Bond's going to get drafted. I would think Taylor will get drafted too. Like, I feel like those are kind of specific roles. You already have players in those specific roles. I don't know if there's room for 2 of those players. They're both NFL players. They both should be drafted. It's kind of nuts Bond didn't get invited to the combine. Yeah. I just think the Patriots already have those guys.
I would love to know what I think there's like a committee, right, that decides who gets invited to the combine. Yeah. There's like a board that the NFL puts in charge of it. This is a guy that broke Zay Flowers' career receptions record at Boston College. A receiver that was a first-round pick not too long ago and just made a Pro Bowl with the Baltimore Ravens. So we're talking about a really, really good player with Zay Flowers. And Lewis Bond broke his record, his school record, and then doesn't get invited to the combine. When we were there, I had some scouts tell me that he ran in like the 4.58 range, which doesn't sound great on the surface, but when you think about the type of player that he is, it's not that.
He's a pure chain mover.
Yeah, like I was texting you about Restrepo last year. Xavier Restrepo ran like a 4.8. That's deal breaking, right? Like that's alarm bells.
Is Bond kind of just like and I mean he also went undrafted too, so maybe this isn't like the best comp because I was gonna say like kind of the lower level, but as a prospect, like is he just kind of like a shorter Jacoby Myers, like you're trying to get the same kind of thing out of him?
Yeah. And I think that, if you had to compare him, stereotypically to the other Patriots slot receivers of the past, like he probably from a strictly athletic profile standpoint really fits like Danny Amendola type of mold, just in terms of like speed and athleticism. In terms of play style, I guess I probably lean a little bit towards like the Efton Chisholm type of mold still. I think.
Well, I just mean in terms of like, because Jacoby, I just looked it up, ran a 4.63.
But Jacoby was tall,
so that's a smaller version of that player.
I don't know if because Jacoby's height and catch radius allows him to win the ball down the field. Yeah, that's a big part
of how he played. Fair enough.
Yeah, so I think that Bond is going to be first and second level. Yeah. The one big concern with him was obviously the play speed and the straight line speed, because I didn't really see him separate a whole lot on fades or on crossing routes. Particularly the crossing routes is the one that I think is the biggest one. If you're not going to get the vertical stretch from the slot, that you can live around that. The fact that the guy can't, run the slot fade or run a seam or something like that. But you want your slot receiver to be able to win horizontally across the field on crossers. So what do you think of Q Hutchins? Do you any interest?
I mean, he's a UDFA.
He's light.
I'd like to see him be a little quicker for his size. That's the big thing for me.
Yeah, he's got good bend on the edge, and he can turn the corner. And I think he plays a little bit bigger than his size, his measurables suggest. I think he was worried. It sounded like just based off his press conference, he was worried about his speed. So I bet you he played closer to 240 and maybe cut weight for this portion of the offseason. But I think that he plays the position just as a stand-up outside guy relatively like the Patriots want it to be played, with some explosiveness and some bend off the edge. But I'm with you. He's pretty small. He's pretty light, especially for that spot. All right, so that was Boston College. It was a fun day. Glad we were able to at least see like a semi, a D1 program in the ACC that does have draftable talent. It is cool to have that right down the street. A couple more things from pro days that have just been kicking around. We haven't been at these physically, but one of our guys, I think we professed our love to Harold Perkins last week, ran a 4.38.
Did you see people saying he should play running back?
I mean, he's one of those guys that there's always a couple of these every single year where the college team did not figure him out yet. Right? Like, I don't feel like LSU was really able to maximize. They tried him on the line of scrimmage as a pass rusher. They tried him at linebacker. They tried him at the star. Like, there's got to be a way to get that kind of athlete to be a productive football player.
I'd push back on that a little bit. Because they did as a freshman. I just wonder if
he's rushing the passer as a freshman, right?
Well, he's doing a little bit of everything, but mainly that. I do wonder if some of that is just he wasn't right last year coming, like,
off the
he's
injury.
Still working his way back from the injury. I think that's part of it.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I think that there's two kind of roles that you could probably play him at. One is obviously weak side linebacker, which feels like the right role. Like, when you have that kind of speed,
right.
To play a player like that at weak side linebacker, the coverage assignments that he can handle, the sideline to sideline against the run, like, he's not going to be the sledgehammer at the point of attack as often, so he can just kind of range over the top of everything and go sideline to sideline.
Angles.
Right. The other one, I guess, would probably be the nickel or the star role, as they call it at LSU, where he's playing basically slot defender, where probably not going to do that against 3 receiver sets, but could against bigger personnel.
Yeah.
If you're playing teams that play a lot of 12 or a lot of 21 personnel with a fullback or an extra tight end, then like, you could probably play him in the slot a little bit like that too. Like,
I'd like to see him rushing the passer more than that, but.
So they used him, the tapes that I saw of him last year at LSU, they used him a lot as an in-line or off-ball blitzer.
Yeah.
Where it was interesting, he kind of like started in a track stance, like a 2-point track stance, and then just like would run, like, clearly tipping that he was blitzing.
Yeah.
Which was, had a couple good rushes, but I think that maybe getting a little bit more, distinctive, like, instinctive, and like disguisey, where like it doesn't tip to the offense that he's clearly blitzing.
Right.
That I think he could kind of be a little bit more effective. So I don't know. I'm still all in on him. I don't know how high he goes, but could be in the 3rd round after that pro day, because some coach and some coaching staff is going to look at him and be like, I know how to use this
Brian
guy.
Flores.
I know how to use him. Like, draft him, and I know how to use him.
Who goes higher, him or Kyle Lewis?
It's a good question. I would say Kyle Lewis has right now is maybe a little bit more polished at linebacker than Perkins is, but I think Perkins is going to be a better player.
Well, so that's the crazy thing, though, is like, I wonder how many teams look at Kyle Lewis as a safety. I wouldn't.
Maybe.
I wonder if teams are going to try to do with Kyle Lewis what the Patriots tried to do with Marte Mapu.
Yeah, I could see that.
And I'd play him in linebacker and just, hey, he's only probably going to play on passing downs. That's fine. Even if he's only on the field 40% of the time, he's going to make a great impact that 40% of the time. And I think that's worth a 3rd-round pick.
It's copycat league.
Yeah.
Nick Emenwari is now the darling. He's technically a safety, but he's a big safety.
Do you think there are more linebackers or more safeties that can do what Nick Emenwari does?
So I think this is kind of a cool cyclical thing. That's a great Catch-22 topic.
Yeah.
I was looking for all the big safeties in this draft.
Yeah.
You can't find them.
Right.
Because all the big safeties are now linebackers. So, like, if you're 220 plus with range and with, cover skills, there's an LB next to your name now in the college game instead of an S.
Because if you run a 4.6, 4.6 as a linebacker is outstanding. A 4.6 as a safety, not so much.
Right. So if you're looking for Emenwari types outside of, obviously McNeil Warren at the very, very top
Right.
of the draft. You're really looking for linebackers at the college level
Yeah.
that are going to probably have some hybrid element to them at the pro level. Could these guys like Perkins and Lewis play in the deep part of the field? Probably
No.
not.
They're box safety.
Yeah, but they're essentially new age box safeties.
Right. Well, Perkins, I hesitate to do that. I think he's a true linebacker,
Yeah.
but he can do some safety stuff.
Yeah.
He more to me is like if the Jets had figured Jamal Adams out correctly.
Okay.
Kind of thing.
I could see that. I think that his pass rush ability is really, really good.
Right. He's too good of a
So,
pass rusher to be a safety.
Yes. And I don't think that he has, even though he ran a 4.38,
Yeah.
his hips and stuff are not going to allow him to
Right.
like be a deep safety that's changing directions out of
Right.
his pedal and all that kind of stuff. The other thing that I think made some headlines out of the pro day circuit was Baylor tight end Michael Trigg jumps 27 and a half inches. I haven't seen a confirmed pro day 40 time for him yet, but I don't want to pick too much on Michael Trigg. But this is more just about getting back into this tight end class. You do
I'll just
not
say
want to
this.
be
Apparently, Trigg was dealing with an injury, and you can kind of see it in the jump. I just don't know why he jumped. Because I've seen him on the football field. He can jump higher than that.
well,
I wonder if this is a Keyshawn Booty running the 40 on a bad ankle kind of thing.
you do not want to be a pass catching tight end that's not athletic.
No,
that's not a
but
good
that's the thing.
combination.
Like watching him,
Yeah.
like I've seen him. I know I've seen him jump higher than that.
I was surprised. I mean, he's an explosive guy off
Yeah.
the line, even if it's not like just simply watching him jump for the ball. Like you can definitely see the explosiveness, but I guess maybe I should show him some grace if there's an injury or something like that. I just
Yeah, here it is, nursing a hamstring injury.
still remain
again, just don't
skeptical of
jump.
this type of player.
I
I just can't get myself to buy into it.
like Michael Trigg, not for the Patriots.
I can't
If
buy
you're going to draft
into it.
if you're going to draft a 50-50 ball guy, go get a receiver. Also, if you really like Michael Trigg, I don't know how much you watched this guy, Daquan Wright from Ole Miss. To
Yeah.
me, pretty similar player, expected to go much later. I don't really understand why. Maybe it's because the Ole Miss offense is gimmicky.
Yeah,
Um,
we'll get to an Ole Miss player in a second.
Yes,
You're,
we will.
You're a guy.
But yeah, I don't know. I like Trigg, not for the Patriots.
If I'm going to draft one of them, I know he's going to go higher, but
Yeah.
like at least Stower's tested unbelievably well, right? So you know that you have confirmation of great receiving upside from his tape, great athletic profile from the combine.
Right.
So that guy is a freak, right? Like
Yeah.
he's a freak athlete, and it shows on the film. I can sort of get behind that one for that reason. Now, I don't know where they draft him because I think he's going to be a top 65. He's going to
Yeah.
go someplace early, and it's just hard for me to envision a scenario where they have a spot to draft. Like, is he going to be there at the end of the second round? If he is, do you even want to draft him that high? Trigg, I'm kind of out on Trigg. I'm not just because of the pro day. I also just didn't love the profile to begin with.
I mean,
and now
we've been pretty clear on this show, and whether it's Stowers, Trigg, Jolie, Koziol, like the pure receiving tight end.
Yeah, I watched Koziol the other
If you want
day.
to sign RJ Maryland as a UDFA, by all means, that would be the one guy.
I watched Koziol the other day.
Yeah.
Dude catches everything.
Catches everything.
Absolutely
Doesn't
catches
block.
everything. Doesn't block and really is not that fast.
No, he's a 50-50 red zone.
Yes.
And that's a really good second tight end. And I guess if he's still there in the 6th round,
Right.
sure. But that's not, I would hope the tight end they're drafting has the upside to take over for Hunter Henry, and they're not back in the market for number 1 tight end next year. And I think with Koziol, it would be like, well, he's a really good number 2,
Right.
but we're still looking for Hunter Henry's successor. Now you're probably back in the top 100 for a tight end next year.
Probably has the best ball skills out of anybody in the draft at that position, though. Like he's got great mitts. Like that guy
Yeah.
catches everything.
Oh, yeah.
He finishes through contact. He can go above the rim and catch the football. Red zone, as you mentioned, like he's got some real mitts on him. So we're on tight end. So let's just knock out the rest of this tight end topic here. So I wanted to talk about some of the 30 visits that have been reported that the Patriots have had recently. It's not necessarily always the best indicator. They did draft a couple guys from their 30s last year, and I would say it's a very good indicator of the positions that they're looking at. It might not be the player that they draft, but these positions. So let's just stick on the tight ends because we're on the topic. They reportedly are having or had Oscar Delp in here for a 30 visit. Where do you currently stand on Oscar Delp? Because I feel like what happened with
Welcome
Oscar
to the party, everybody.
What happened with Oscar Delp though is that he started as this like fringe top 100 player. Now that he's had this great pre-draft, he's going up, 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 and up. And what I can't figure out yet is, was the media just late and the league always had him up, or are we counting things twice? And by counting things twice, I mean we know on tape that he's this explosive athlete. Just because he tested like an explosive athlete doesn't mean that you should raise him up around. It means that he checked
Don't
the
change
box.
your grade based on what you knew.
Right.
I think it's probably like 80-20, 90-10. The thing with Delp is, and I've talked about this, he really didn't have any production in college.
Correct.
He's behind Brock Bowers, and then when Bowers leaves, they kind of take the tight end. They really de-emphasize that position in the offense. It's not because they didn't trust Delp. They got a new offensive coordinator who just didn't throw the tight ends as much. He also really suffered from the quarterback play. I don't know how much you've actually gone back and watched. Gunnar Stockton did him no favors.
Yeah, there was one up the seam where he had the guy beat by like 3 or 4 steps, and he underthrew it so badly that he almost had to make like the Edelman Super Bowl catch. Yeah, it was
so,
tough.
I always, and here's the other thing. The teams know more than we do, right? A guy's stock shooting up sometimes is the media catching up.
Agreed.
I said this from the beginning. Like when everybody was picking Delp at 131 in their mock drafts, I said, you're not going to be able to do that once we get past the combine. Now, part of it is he got hurt and he missed the combine. He was playing through a broken foot, which is also awesome. Not that he has a broken foot, but that he played through it and didn't even know it was broken. So this is kind of the jump. If he had this jump after the combine, it would have been, well, that's the combine. Like guys test well, they move up, whatever. So it's a unique situation. I always viewed him as a top 100 talent. I kind of wondered why he was lower. I think this is just the media catching up. If you followed college football, if you watched him at Georgia, you saw, and it is more potential than proven ability. And the lack of production is going to hurt him in NFL teams' eyes, and that's fair. That's fair. There are guys that have more catches, more yards than him, certainly. But if you watched him at Georgia and you kind of saw what he was doing in the bubble of that offense, he's top 100 talent.
I would agree that he's a top 100 talent. I'm still not ready to say that he's higher than like a 3rd round pick because of the production. And look, this happens all the time at that position.
I take him at 63.
That's high to me. Like this happens all the time at that position. I'll give you that caveat. Yeah. That the athlete that doesn't have great college production, I think George Kittle's kind of like the poster child for this, right? And then it explodes at the NFL level. I think the thing about Delp though, to me, is that he did have some opportunities to have more, more production, especially last year. You're drafting a guy that had 20 catches last year. 20.
So, okay, here's my thing about taking him at 63, though.
If you take him at 63, though, you're expecting him to be a 50-plus catch guy for you.
I think he can do that in the NFL. Maybe not in year 1, but by the end of his rookie contract, certainly. Here's my thing on taking him at 63. This tight end class, we had this conversation. Do you remember this, like, back in September? Is this a good tight end class or not?
Yeah.
And, there is no... I guess there is no Tyler Warren and Colston Loveland, right? Sadiq's a good player. He's a unique player. This class is not top heavy. I think there's a really good tight end class in the middle, and at the bottom, it's definitely not top heavy.
Yeah.
Kenyon Sadiq is going to go top 20.
Yeah.
I think he could go top 10 personally, but he's going to go top 20. It's just like what we talked about with the tackles. Eli Stower is going to go top 50, right? Is Oscar Delp the 3rd best tight end in this class? I think there's a case for it. Yeah. I don't hate Max Clare, but I think there's a case for it.
It's either him or Clare. It's between those two guys.
Is drafting the 3rd best tight end at pick 63 crazy if you need a tight end?
I guess the question to me, because I think with this tight end class, personally, I think there's no middle class. I think Sadiq is the clear-cut number 1 guy, and then I think all these other guys that we've discussed are clustered together.
Oh, see, I think it's all middle class.
Well, whether you want to call it, like, see, I'm looking at it as, like, one really good player, no, like, top 50 tight ends, and then a bunch of guys that are going to go rounds like 2 through 4.
Oh, see, I think the gap between, like, Claire, Roush, and Delp versus guys like Endries, Royer, Raridan, that's a gap to me. That's a significant gap.
I don't think it's as significant.
I think that's a big gap. I would rather get, if you don't take, is Roush or Claire going to be there at 95? Is Delp going to be there at 95? I don't think any of those guys are going to be there at 95.
I think that this is the conversation, right? Like, if you don't think those guys are going to, let's say you're going to have to take one of those players
Yeah.
at 63.
Yeah.
Would you rather take Oscar Delp at 63
Yeah.
or the next wave that you were talking about
At 125.
in the 4th round?
I think I'd rather take Delp. And maybe you trade back from
I w-
63. Maybe that's what it is.
I
You
just
trade way
wouldn't,
up from 95.
because
But
I think they're going to be better players at other positions on the board at 63.
so that's fair. I'm not really. I guess I'm not considering that.
So
but
like I think that's the biggest thing with this tight end class is that I don't think there's a huge drop off between probably 8 to 10 guys.
Isn't it just so easy to go edge, tight end, tackle with the first 3 picks? Doesn't the board kind of line up that way?
I don't know.
I know that's not how it works. I know it's not how it works.
But there has to be a player there at tight end. Like I have a tough time thinking that there is.
So here's my point. If Claire, Delp, and Roush, if you have a really good feeling that they're all going to be gone before 95,
yes,
I'd rather reach on those guys than miss. And again, maybe you trade back. I think that's going to be a spot where you can certainly trade back.
I just feel like is the drop off between Claire, Delp, Roush significant with Raritan, Endries, Dalen Bentley from Utah.
I think it is.
Jolly, obviously from NC State.
Well, Jolie's going to be a fringe top 100 guy, but he's another one of those pure
we're
receivers.
talking about these guys like in clusters, right? And like that, I think that that's one. Sadiq's in his own cluster. Then there's
it's different. I don't think the drop off from Delp, Roush, and Claire to Jolie is as big as some of those other guys just overall, but I don't think Jolie's the kind of tight end they should be looking at.
Okay. I think our disagreement, if there is one, is that I view this group clustered a lot closer together.
I'm not as big on the mid-day 3 tight ends.
I feel like this group flattens, and then there's just a run of 12 guys. I said 8 to 10, maybe 8 to 10. Maybe I'm exaggerating. Of guys that are all sort of clustered together. Do I think that Roush and Delp and those guys are within the cluster or a tier ahead of the others? Probably, but I don't think that.
I think they're in their own cluster.
That's interesting.
I think Delp has a different level. At his size, his ability to change direction, kind of as a route runner, but mostly after the catch, he's
fluid.
He's really fluid, but he also can stretch the field vertically. I don't think, because a lot of times with tight ends, they get pigeonholed into chain mover versus downfield explosive threat like seam stretcher.
Seam runner, yep.
I think Delp can do both, and there's just not that many guys. Again, that second group you're talking about. How many of those guys do you think realistically have the ability to do both at the NFL level while also being able to block? They might be better individually as chain movers. They might be better individually as field stretchers. When I look at a tight end, I want Inspector Gadget. Go Gadget, run the underneath route. Go Gadget, run the seam. Go Gadget, block. I want him to be able to pull any bag out of the hat. Yeah. Any whatever. I mix those up. Bag out of the hat out of the bag, whatever. That's what I like about Delp, and that's what I think sets him apart from those other guys. Roush maybe isn't as versatile as a receiver. He's a little more stiff. He's purely a seam stretcher. Right. But his blocking ability is so far above those other guys that's right. While still being able to be a capable receiver, that's why I put him in that next level. And Claire's somewhere in between that. I love the well-roundedness. It'll be up tomorrow. I wrote my tight end preview for 985thesportshub.com over the last couple days. I kept having to go to the thesaurus because I needed synonyms for well-rounded, because I was using the term well-rounded so much, because that's really what I think, especially looking at Josh McDaniels' history, right? That's what you want in the tight end. You want a guy who can do a little bit of everything, and Delp, to me, more so than anybody else, he's the Swiss Army knife. He's Inspector Gadget.
So I think there's 2 other guys that I find in that mold. I think Eli Raritan has the potential to be in that mold. Yeah, but he's a little bit tall and high cut, which limits his blocking.
He also
power.
has an injury history.
I like Endries from Texas a lot, and I like Bentley from Utah a lot. I think both those guys are pretty well rounded. I think Endries can block. I think that he can stretch the seam.
Bentley was like a late breakout as a receiver, though, right?
Yeah, Bentley though I think is an exciting player to me, like 6'4", 250 plus. I think his blocking is actually a little bit raw right now, and he's going to get even better as a blocker. And he can catch the football pretty loose with the football, in terms of his fluidity and stuff like that, not loose with the ball in terms of fumbles. I think that there's a little bit more there with those 2 guys. So I guess the question is because I think Raritan's kind of in that category as well.
Right.
If you put Raritan, Endries, Bentley on the board at around 125.
What about Royer?
Yeah,
You not watched him as much? Or?
I haven't watched him as much because I don't have a ton of Cincinnati tape.
Okay.
But
they were at Jeff Caldwell's pro day
from
today,
what
so
I
you got to
saw
get it.
though, like he was a little squatty. Like he was a little, I don't know. He just didn't do it for me.
I'm not as big with him either. he's also kind of thrown into that group.
He was one guy that I feel like I owe watching a little bit more of, and maybe I'm just not seeing it quite yet. But I thought, like, with him, he's kind of a little bit of a short strider, and he's kind of like squatty build. I had the same issue with Jolly, to be honest with you, where like I thought he's kind of stiff, and like because he's a smaller guy, like he doesn't have those long like eat it up, the seam or the underneath crossers and things like that. Like he can get up to a pretty good speed eventually, but it just takes a while. I don't know. That's kind of how I felt like Royer too is like more like this
that's fair.
Probably a first level player.
Yeah.
Not really a guy that's gonna add much field stretching element. All right, let's get to some of these other 30 visits because we could argue about the tight ends for a while. So there are 2 wide receivers on the recent lists of reports. We've talked a lot about Casey Concepcion on this show. I don't know how much more we need to really say about Casey Concepcion. I think that the one thing I would just add with him is that reading and listening to some other people in the draft community talk about him, it's really just the ball skills that are holding people back. It's really just the fact that he's had some drops on his tape and doesn't have maybe the best ability to finish through contact and at the catch point, because the separation and the yards after catch are as good as basically anybody, I would say, in this class. The guy that I really do want to talk about, though, and debate a little bit with you about is Dejon Stribbling. Dejon Stribbling.
Double check that.
From Ole Miss, who is a guy that I think are this is one of your crushes. It seems like. Can I say that?
It was more just like I was watching.
You know too many people to really have crushes. I feel like it's
no.
Hard.
Did you not just hear the way I talked about Oscar Delp?
Yeah, you do really like Oscar Delp. That's true.
I do actually have a guy that is probably becoming more of a draft crush, but it's no level. No, Stribbling was more. Do you remember last year before the Senior Bowl? I watched Kyle Williams, and then I looked, and he was like 800 on the consensus board. And so I texted you. I texted a bunch of other people. I'm like, am I missing something? Did he not declare for the draft? Is there like an off the field? Like I just couldn't figure it out. And then I was just a little early to the from a media standpoint.
Yeah.
So after the show Wednesday night, I started putting together my mock draft, and I forget what brought it up. I'm watching Stribbling, and I'm like, oh. This is like more than I was expecting. He was like 160, 170 on the consensus board.
Yeah.
I'm like, compared to the other players in that range, I'm like, there's a lot more here. What am I missing? And I look, nobody's really written about him. There's not a ton, on social media about him. So I text you, I text some people. I'm like, what, if you watch this guy, am I missing something? What's going on here? I'm not seeing a lot about him. Am I imagining things? And then the next day it's reported that the Patriots are meeting with him for a 30 visit.
Yeah.
So that happened 3 times last week. Adam Randall, Zakee Watley, and Dejon Stribbling. So we'll see if it happens with the 4th guy. We'll get to in a little bit. But
way to pat yourself on the back there. I like that.
For what he is, I like Stribbling. And I think the interesting thing where the Patriots are, when you talk about receiver in this draft, there's the A.J. Brown of it all.
Right.
And I think it's pretty clear at this point, just from what this is no inside information for me, but like the reports are out there, this isn't getting resolved before the draft.
No.
It's going to be a post-June 1 thing. So, if it can happen, and from us on the outside, and like I said, it doesn't really matter, but like, how do you approach receiver if you might have A.J. Brown, but you might not?
Yeah.
Right?
I wrote, I just told you we were doing our mock drafts, and this is what I wrote at the top of the mock drafts was like,
too.
If they trade for A.J. Brown and they have that in their back pocket, they probably don't need to draft a receiver at all.
No.
Versus if they don't trade for A.J. Brown, if they don't have A.J. Brown, you might draft a receiver at 31. Like this is literally the difference between it being a first-round pick on your draft sheet and being not on the board.
But you also have
to,
even if you think you're trading for him, if you haven't, there's an old saying, you haven't caught the fish till you got it in the boat, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got to prepare for that. So how do you almost split the difference? And that's where
mid-round wide receiver
who can do some of the things that A.J. Brown does. Like, stylistically, he profiles similarly. A.J. Brown obviously does it at a much higher level. And the other thing is, we've talked, A.J. Brown's 29. And, you get a year or 2 out of him. Maybe Stribbling's a guy further down the road that grows into a bigger role. The thing I like about Stribbling, and the reason I like Stribbling for the Patriots specifically, more than some of the other receivers in that range,
Yeah.
he does something the Patriots don't currently have on the roster. Not in a pack. Like, he has size. Okay, Matt Collins has size. He has speed. Okay, Kyle Williams has speed. He has contested catch ability. Okay, Kayshon Boutte is that. Those are 3 separate players. And he can do all those things. 6'2", 207, ran a 4.36, I believe. I know he was in the 4.3s.
Yes.
He's got really, really good body control. And he can go outside his frame, catch the ball. It allows him to kind of stop, start on a dime. His hitch routes, his comeback routes, his curls are all really good. He can get vertical as well. For his size, I'd like to see him be a better contested catch receiver. That's kind of the big knock for me. The other one, he's not, nobody's going to confuse him for Julian Edelman. He's not great at changing direction, but I think for a player his size, it works. He's not as stiff as I expected a player his size to be, especially a player projected to go in that range. So he's currently 156 on the big board. He'd be in play for me at 125.
Yeah.
I think he brings some things to the table that they don't have. I do think there's some upside with him, even though he's 23. He did play in a gimmicky offense in college and we didn't have a 1,000-yard season, so there's the production knock, but I trust Todd Downing more than I've trusted their wide receiver coaches in the past. I think they could find a role for him. And if they trade for A.J. Brown, maybe that role diminishes, but I don't think it goes away entirely. That's one other thing about him. He blocks his ass off. That guy loves to block, and he's good at it. So, some people are probably here, big receiver who likes to block, and N'Keal Harry. All right, well, it's 125. I wouldn't take him at 31.
He also runs a 4.3.
He also runs, what did N'Keal run?
4.5.
Was it that? Wow.
Yeah.
I almost talking about him at 125. I probably wouldn't take him at 96.
Yeah.
He's a day 3 pick to me. But as far as day 3 picks go, I like his makeup. I like what he brings to the table. I'd be in on him. And I think he perfectly splits that gap where, all right, he probably doesn't solve all your problems if you don't get A.J. Brown, but there are some things you would ask A.J. Brown to do that you don't have any other guys on the roster that can do he can probably do.
He's not the guy after the catch that A.J. Brown is.
No, that's the big gap.
And I don't know if A.J. Brown's that guy anymore, but at least when we're talking about the idea of A.J. Brown, assuming that maybe this last year in Philly was just kind of him being grumpy.
Can I push back on the after the catch thing a little bit?
He doesn't have that kind of...
There is one, when he runs the comeback, he's really good at, if the corner bites too much, that play where you turn
the Malcolm Mitchell.
The reverse T-step, making the pay on the T-step. And then he has the 4.3 speed to pull away. He's really good at that play. He's not somebody I'd throw screens to. He's not somebody who's going to create a lot after a slant. But on that comeback, which Drake was pretty good at throwing last year, he does have a knack for getting his hips turned, taking advantage of the corner, taking a bad angle, and getting up the field. I like him there after the catch. After that, the other stuff, nobody's going to mistake him for Julian Edelman after the catch. Nobody's going to mistake him for Pop Douglas. There is a little bit of something there, more so than I would expect from a guy his size.
Okay, so I'm gonna agree with you, and then I'm gonna disagree with you. I think the two things that stand out to me when I watched him were ability to beat press coverage is good. He definitely has some wiggle at the line of scrimmage, some lateral quickness at the line of scrimmage, and acceleration in the initial 10 yards or so off the line of scrimmage is really good to stack corners. He had one rep against Georgia from the slot where he just dusted the corner and press. It was an impressive rep. Those reps are nice. I do really like his versatility. I think that's one thing that you didn't necessarily hit on that I just wanted to add in there.
Well, I like him on the outside, but sure.
But he's a guy that I think can move around a little bit. They actually even had him.
Sorry, just real quick, because you just mentioned it, to your point about Georgia. Yeah. And I know you're big on this with he played Chris Brazzell.
I know, and it made me feel worse about the Chris Brazzell thing because maybe Georgia just didn't play good receivers.
Maybe I should feel worse about Dalen Everett, who I like, but 7 for 122 against Georgia in the playoff.
He had a really
3 for 96 in the regular season.
Both games against Georgia were good.
Yeah,
and he, I would say they used him almost sort of on the wing as an H-back type of thing, where they put him behind the offensive line.
They ran him out of the backfield a couple times.
Yeah, and he'd run slide routes and he'd block. The blocking didn't go so hot from there because he's not that big. He's not tight end. So he's but at least he's there. It's a speed bump to the ball. And then they obviously would hit him on those slide routes or those submarine routes under the line of scrimmage where once he hits that runway at 4.3, you got some speed after the catch. I think the one thing that I maybe didn't see as much, and I know you're not saying that he's the quickest guy, in and out of breaks, horizontal cuts, first and second level separation, all those things would be concerns for me. I did not see a guy that was a big separator at the top of the route when he was asked to cut. If you're asking him to do things on the vertical route tree, run a hitch, try to come back, that type of thing.
He's not an underneath receiver.
The concern that I would have with that is that I think if you're going to be really good in that role, you have to have a slant. You have to either be able to run a slant or be able to run an under. One of those two routes, like a short in. Because
his deep in's okay.
You need to have something into the middle of the field at the first level.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the corners, it eliminates the middle of the field from your press release package. And so they don't have to worry about you releasing and breaking inside. So like now they can sit on the hitches, the comebacks, and the verticals, right? So I always say it's, and I'm probably not giving him enough credit because he's an awesome like all-time player. But like Des Bryant ran like 3 routes to me. He ran a slant, a comeback, and a go. And he made almost a borderline Hall of Fame career running 3 routes. That to me is the baseline of any type of receiver in that mold. I don't know if Stribbling has that first level quickness to separate on a slant. So can he develop it? Is it something that, he just wasn't asked to do a lot because of the nature of the offense? All fair points. Like maybe he can. I think he's going to be where he's going to go. Because he's kind of a one-trick pony at this point,
All right, fair enough.
But I think if that's what you're looking for,
if he could develop a slant, if you felt he could develop a slant,
if he could develop some sort of first-level separation just to get corners to respect the first-level route, then I would feel like he could probably be a top 100 guy.
Can just his release help with that? You mentioned his good release.
I think that it mostly is the top of the route. Okay. And so, like, I think it's the separation at the top of the route, that ability to sink hips, accelerate through the break point, open up your hips and cut. When you watch him kind of break at the top of the route, it takes like an extra step. Most of the time, you want receivers that can break in 3 steps. You have 3 steps is efficient at the NFL level, right? You have a step into the break, and then your drive step, which is the most important step. So when you come out of the break with the drive step, you want your foot to already be pointing where you want to go.
Right.
You don't want that foot to still be pointing up the field. So guys that have great drive steps, for example, I'll just use the pinnacle probably in the league right now, Jackson Smith-Njigba. He has that ability to already be opening his foot and his hip towards the break so that he can just accelerate right through the break. Whereas other guys are still moving forward. They're still moving upfield when they break, and that's why you get those false steps and struggle to gather their weight and sink and cut. So a lot of these guys, like I'll give you another example in that mold. I really enjoyed watching Ted Hurst. I thought that he has some giddy up. I think he has some size that's rare. Like he's, kind of like knockoff DK Metcalf, right? Like where like he has all like really good size, really good vertical ability, but he's a little bit clunky at the top of the route. Like he might take 4 or 5 steps to gather and cut when you need to be able to take 3. And I think that that's what separates guys that are like elite versus guys that are where we're talking.
You put Bryce Lance in that group too?
Yes, I would put Bryce Lance. Like a lot of people say Bryce Lance is like Christian Watson. The reason why I would push back on that is Christian Watson was such a fluid, smooth athlete. Like Christian Watson, when I think of Christian Watson, and it's obviously helmet scouting with Bryce Lance to compare him to Christian Watson. But I remember watching Christian Watson when he came out of college. And remember when he would take like handoffs out of the backfield at college, and I'd be like, oh my God, like this guy is, 6'2" plus, great speed, and he's got the fluidity and sort of the, the movement skill to be able to like basically take like sweeps and handoffs out of the backfield. These guys are too stiff for that. Like they're too rigid for that those types of actions. Last one here on the 30 visits, then we'll take our break, and then we'll get into our roster reset and calls and emails and all that good stuff. Kaden McDonald from Ohio State, the nose tackle from Ohio State, reported in on a 30 visit with the Patriots. To me, and I have no inside information like we always say on the show, I would just say that this one is really good player, right in our range. We should probably do some homework on him, right? I don't know if it's the biggest need. I don't know if it's the direction that they end up going in, but they should know. They should have an extensive report done on Kaden McDonald. It's the right thing to do. The one thing that I really like about Kaden McDonald that kind of separates him from typical nose tackles. He is a playmaking nose tackle. Like, he had like 30 plus run stops last year. This is a guy that makes plays on the other side of the line of scrimmage as a nose tackle. So this is not a space eater. This is not somebody that's just going to clog lanes and hold up blocks and build a wall and all that kind of stuff. He gets off blocks. He penetrates. He stuffs runs at a really, really high rate.
Yeah, I'm with you. Maybe doing their due diligence, maybe trying to, there's some teams that need a nose tackle at the top of the second round.
Yeah.
Trying to scare them into a trade up potentially if it comes to that. So, yeah. I don't know. It would be a weird pick for me.
It would. Really quickly, and then we'll take this break. Where do you stand on Mendoza versus Ty Simpson? Because we can't be in the draft community and not give our take on this. So we have 30 seconds before the break to give a take on Dan Orlovsky lighting the world on fire.
Look, if people want to have their differing takes, I have nothing against differing takes. If you want to say Ty Simpson, and there's always a quarterback that gets too gassed up. And I talked about this the other week. It's unfair to the quarterback. It was unfair to J.J. McCarthy. Because the expectations become so high, and then they get dumped on for being in a situation they should have never been in.
Sure.
I thought it was going to be Nussmeier or Aller that got this super artificial hype. I didn't think it was going to be Ty Simpson because his game is just very vanilla. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that. It's very vanilla. But, if you want to have a differing opinion, by all means, have it. I had Jahmyr Gibbs ahead of Bijan Robinson in that draft, which didn't turn out probably as wrong as it looked at the time. Still probably wrong, but not as wrong as it looked at the time.
Yeah. They were just both good.
They're both good. But I had reasons for it. I went in, I did the research, I backed it up. Saying Fernando Mendoza didn't play in big games, that's just false.
Yeah.
It's just patently false.
Yeah, that was weird.
He won a national championship. He beat Ohio State, generational defense.
Maybe he meant
Big Ten championship.
He felt like he didn't play well in the big games.
Go back and watch Ohio State.
I mean, he didn't play very well
until the end. Go back and watch what he did to that Miami defense.
Yeah.
What were they up on Alabama again? Was it 30-something and nothing?
30 nothing.
So, if you want to come with this, stats, and whatever, Mendoza was heavily reliant on RPOs and maybe he had more talent around him, whatever, which is crazy to say about an Indiana quarterback, but fine. To say he didn't play in big games. And Dan also, he had a chance. They gave him an out.
Yeah.
To say, oh, no, you mean he didn't play well? No, you just say he didn't play in big games. You got to come with something better than that. That's the reality of it. I disagree. And if you want to have the debate, we can have a debate. But you have to have the debate in good faith. You can't say things that aren't true.
So let me be clear in saying that we all have blind spots and we all miss when it comes to this kind of stuff. The one thing that I have noticed about former quarterbacks when they evaluate draft prospects is they probably lean a little bit heavier towards mechanics, footwork, progression reads, just the nuances and the details of the position, where if they're just strictly grading tape and they're saying this is how a coaching staff would grade this film, that's not necessarily the draft. The draft is a lot of projecting. It's a lot of ceiling projection in particular of who has more skill, who has more raw athleticism, who has a stronger arm, who has more tools in his toolbox, who has more running ability, who has more ability to drive the football into tight windows, to make different types of throws, to layer footballs, to drive footballs. All these different types of things are not, did he make the right read? Did he throw on time? Did he have the right footwork and all that kind of stuff? So when we get into these draft conversations, and this is, we just went through this a couple years ago. I feel like Drake May was getting dragged down by a lot of these types of people because he was not a polished prospect coming out of college. But what they were missing was that he was functionally a good quarterback at the time. His floor was higher than they thought, and his athleticism and his traits were just so good that once all the other type of details that can be coached got caught up, he was going to be what he is today, which is a MVP caliber quarterback. So I always see this time of year, Ty Simpson's this year. And look, he ended up being better than I probably gave him credit for, but Bo Nix was this guy in Drake May's draft where it's the quarterback's coach quarterback. This is the coach's pick because he does everything. He's polished, he's detailed, all that kind of stuff. I feel like when guys like Orlovsky watch people like Ty Simpson, that's what they see. They see a pro-ready quarterback. Yeah. What they don't see when I was watching, because I didn't really watch Ty Simpson necessarily, I did watch a lot of Jeremy Bernard. And I would see Jeremy Bernard open on the sideline on like an out, and I'd see Ty Simpson throwing skip passes to him. Or I'd see Jeremy Bernard or Ryan Williams get open behind the defense, and Ty Simpson threw them, short-armed it and threw it back into coverage and made them stop and wait on the football. For some reason, like if they're making the right read and they look mechanically tied together, the quarterback people just say, "Yep, like
right."
Oh well, okay, so you couldn't put the 50-yard bomb on a dot. Well, in the NFL, you need to put that ball on a dot because that's going to get picked off if you don't do that at the league. At Alabama, he might have been able to get away with that. So I think it's sort of just how you are evaluating the tape can change depending on if you're looking through it from. I would look at watching Patriots film during the season. Yeah. I watch that film differently than I watched film for the draft. It's two different sort of things. This is why teams have scouts and teams have position coaches, and they're usually not the same people. Is because it's two different types of things. It's two different itches to scratch. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, I see you guys lined up on the phones. We'll get right to you.
Whether you're in the game or betting on the game, you'll need a game plan. DraftKings Sportsbook, the official sports betting partner of the New England Patriots, provides you with everything you need to build your personal betting game plan so you can get in on all the action while practicing safe bets. Visit DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming to learn more about all the safe betting tools DraftKings has to offer. Hope is here, 800-327-5050 or gamblinghelplinema.org. Must be 21 plus. Play it smart from the start. GameSenseMA.com. Physically present in Massachusetts. See DraftKings.com/responsible-gaming for details and state-specific responsible gambling resources.
Isn't it time to get exactly what you want? Welcome to Red Hot Deal Days from Verizon, where you get your pick of our best deals. Like My Plan, where you can pick the perks you want and save on every one. For limited time, bring your own phones to a Verizon store and you can get My Plan for our best price ever. Get exactly what you want in your phone plan and only pay for what you need. Bring your phones to your Verizon store today and get My Plan. These deals won't last. It's your Verizon.
The heaviest metal credit card of all time. Wielded at business dinners like a samurai sword. It's a classic corporate power move. But the real power move? Having end-to-end visibility on your most critical shipments. FedEx, the new power move.
If you're gonna play the game, boy, you gotta learn to play it right.
DraftKings is all about responsible gaming. It's more fun when it's for fun. So play responsibly. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 21 plus. Age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction.
Catch-22. Catch-22.
Alex, spring has sprung, but I don't think it really has. It's still a little chilly around here. And if you want to get more from your tax refund, why not draft Bob's Discount Furniture to help? Shop Bob's latest spring dining styles like the top-rated Elm, featuring a real marble table perfect for hosting big brunches and game day parties, or the versatile Betty Collection, which comes in multiple winning colors and heights. So stop in or shop online and get more for less with Bob's Discount Furniture, the official furniture store of the New England Patriots. All right, you guys have been waiting, so we're going to get right to you and the phone calls. Patty is in Agawam. What's up, Patty?
Hey, good afternoon, gents.
How we doing?
I got cut off accidentally, so I apologize if you guys brought any running backs up, but I know how you guys feel about Adam Randall and Mike Washington, I believe. But I wanted to know if what you guys felt about both of the Penn State running backs. Do you guys think that they're day 3 guys, and either of them are good fits with this team? And I'll take it off here, guys. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Patty. So you know me, Alex.
Yeah, you
the
don't.
The hardest
even...
thing for me to do with the draft ace is to watch running backs. It's the hardest thing. I can't. I always wait until like April to get to the running backs because I hate watching running backs. I don't
know why.
It just doesn't move the needle.
You like watching the line. It's similar.
It's just, you know what it is like running backs in college, especially the backs that come from the big schools.
Yeah.
They have so much room to do things that I'm just like, I don't think that any of this translates, right? Like there's just so much open space for this guy that all he is doing is running straight really fast in a straight line. And although he had a really good rookie season and I'm still high on him as a player, I think we saw some of this with Travion Henderson last year, where when it came to really reading through the line of scrimmage and finding the right entry points and going where the defense isn't and all that kind of stuff, vision is really what I should be saying. That it's hard. It's a hard skill to translate. As far as what he has, Mike Washington's expected to be a pretty high draft pick.
He had a great combine. He's gonna go. He's going to go, top 70.
I think if they draft a running back in the first 2 rounds, that would make zero sense.
To me, the highest is 171.
Yeah.
Like even 125, 131, which is probably where you need to take Singleton or Allen, who are the Penn State guys.
Yeah.
They profile kind of similarly. They're both big physical backs. Singleton has a little more explosiveness, a little more juice in his game. They run hard. They're tough to tackle. They can, compete between the tackles. They're good players. I don't know that I'd want the Patriots to take a running back that high. They definitely fit the mold, I think, of what the Patriots are looking for at the position. It's just a matter if they want to draft one that high. Like Singleton could go fringe top 100.
Yeah.
So Allen's probably a little bit later because Singleton had a really good 2024 and then kind of came back down to earth a little bit last year, as did most players of that Penn State program. I think it's more about the program than the player. But yeah, they're good players. I like them. They can play.
Adam Randall, another guy that was on.
Yes.
I thought we talked about him last week, which is why
we did,
I didn't put him
and I
on the
told
list.
you need to watch him, and you were going to refuse to. But now that they've met with him, you kind of have to. He's also not your typical running back watch. Like there's a lot. So
that's what I like about him is that he does a lot more than just run the football between the tackles or something like that. I like the idea of adding somebody with some kickoff return juice. I think that and I know it's a lazy comparison to compare him to Patterson, but what I think about the comparison is I do think he can catch the ball a little bit and play a little bit of a receiver as well. So it's not like you're just drafting another guy to eat carries, right? This is a guy that's going to bring, because I just can't. The thing I struggle with the running backs with the Patriots is that Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson are going to be your running backs next year. If one of them gets hurt, of course, that's always a caveat. But at the same time, I would like to add a running back that's going to bring something a little bit unique.
Sure.
Because if all 3 of them are healthy, then you want roles, for all 3 guys. Randall could do that.
Randall, yeah. I mean, he's got to learn some of the finer points of playing the position, not just like we were talking about earlier, the field vision stuff and all that.
Yeah.
He's got to learn how to pass block. He's not ready to do that, but 6'3", 230, he's got a frame to do it. So I'm still big into the idea of Adam Randall in the 6th round, and it seems like they met with him. So
yeah, agreed. All right, Zach is in New Hampshire. What's up, Zach?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call. I just wanted to know who is your favorite prospect in the entire draft for the Patriots this year, and then also what do you think Kyle Williams' role will be next year? I was a big fan of the pick when they made it, and just wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Zach. Your favorite prospect for the Patriots in the draft?
It's a tough one. Pound for pound, all things considered, it might be Delp.
Do you really like Delp?
Really might. I think he can play.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. It's not to say I take him at 31. I think some of those edge rushers are better, but for where you're going to get him, for what he could potentially give you, I don't know. I really like him. Can I say Jordan Tyson?
You can, and
that's that weird thing though. If he falls to 31,
there's a reason.
How bad is his hamstring? How bad are his medicals going? That do you want to take him at 31?
Yeah.
I like Mesidor. I like Akis. Yeah, it's a tough question to answer.
I think it's a tough question to answer because they're picking 31, right? So there's not this obvious talent. I watched Jordan Tyson the other day because I texted you and said, do I have to watch Jordan Tyson because of all this buzz about the injuries knocking him down the board? So I did. I mean, it's only going to be injury related. It's not going to be anything to do with tape because he might be the best receiver in the class just off the tape. So it's obviously injury related. I would say my favorite player in the draft is probably Dylan Dynaman, honestly, but I need / where he's going to go, it doesn't add up.
If we're just going favorite player overall, Caleb Downs, easy.
Yeah.
Easy. I love Caleb Downs. That dude, he's going to be a stud.
Yeah, I really like Dynaman. For the Patriots at 31, it's tougher because you just don't know who's going to be there at 31.
Well, that's why I'm
Chris Brazel's probably my favorite player in the draft, period. but I'm not saying that is necessarily
Surprise,
for 31.
surprise.
But
Yeah.
but Brazel just overall.
But
is
that's what I'm saying,
probably
like,
my
so there's
favorite
like a
player.
pound for pound thing. Like, again, I really like Gabe Akis. I can fully understand within saying that
You're not
they
drafting
shouldn't take him at 31.
Yeah.
But like, there's a world where I'm more excited about Gabe Akis at 63, or if they trade up in like the 50s, than I am about whoever they take at 31. Not because
Sure.
I hate the 31 pick, but like that's just gonna be like, oh, it's great value, he's a good player, he fits, blah blah, whatever. Same thing with Delp, that kind of thing. So
After my Cole Strange meltdown on the old show
Yeah.
a couple years ago, I tried to like play it cool when the Patriots draft somebody, even if it's somebody I really really like. Obviously, when the last 2 years they've been picking
Yeah.
super high, but my very first year covering the draft with the team, they picked Gonzo, and I loved Gonzo. He was my number one player. I was swooning over him all draft season. I just kept saying, "There's no way he's going to be there. There's no way he's going to be there." And I tried to play it cool because that was 1 year after the Strange meltdown. If they draft Brazel, I might not be able to keep.
There's a clip of me. Felger and Maz played it when they drafted Gonzalez. I did not contain my excitement very well.
Yeah, that was
But-
post.
I was trying to think.
Post like 2012. That was probably Bill's best pick in a decade. I mean,
The Drake May pick, I think I was on the Joe Murray. I
boy.
think we just did like a big
Don't
exhale.
do it to me. I don't know what to say.
no.
That
The
exists
Patriots
on
have
these
drafted
servers.
offensive
That's pretty
lineman
impressive.
Cole Strange from Chattanooga.
No, we don't need to do this.
With the 29th
we don't
pick
need
in the
to
draft.
do this.
Just play. Anyway.
I see, but you can even hear my voice trying to play it cool as I'm like saying it out
No,
loud.
the video.
and it's just slowly.
The
like,
video
melting.
sells it because you had like the cheap at-home podcast setup, and it looks like
yeah.
you're being interrogated.
I was being interrogated by Bill Belichick. Man. No, the Gonzo pick was fun though.
We
you
got
knew.
geeked up about
You knew.
that.
You
yeah.
knew. All right. DJ is in North Carolina. What's up, DJ?
I wanted to touch on Denzel Boston. Okay, the whole A.J. Brown situation. Evan, I heard you last week said you got PTSD from N'Keal Harry about Denzel Boston, but with Denzel Boston, I think people don't give him credit for his smooth route running and his size and his play speed. I know he didn't run in 40, but the play speed is on tape. You can see he was a punt returner for Washington at times. And his play strength and body control and effort, I know Vrabel would love that. And some of the best receivers in the game got all three of those. So, I mean, I love Boston. I would love if they take him at 31.
Sure, yeah, DJ. Listen, I liked Boston more than I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
And the only reasons why I don't like Boston is because I swore off that type of receiver long ago.
You keep trying with the skinny speed guy.
Last year, I would not do Keon Coleman. I would not take Keon Coleman serious. Is that last year or 2 years ago?
2 years ago. I see, but
I couldn't do it.
I just want to put Coleman's not the comp for Boston. Coleman's the comp for Malachi Fields.
Correct. But they're all in a similar mold, and I could not do it. The Denzel Boston, though, you said it that you were surprised how much I liked him.
I was.
I liked him a lot more than I thought I was going to. I think the number one thing that I liked about him the most was obviously that he's not just a contested catcher, because I think that gives him a bad rap for always being covered. He's a hands catcher. This is a guy that I don't think I ever saw a single pass go into his body when he caught the football. That skill is, I would say, one, underrated, but two, really plays in the league, really plays in the NFL. All the best receivers in the league, for the most part, are hands catchers, are guys that catch the ball away from their frame. So that was a really good trait, and I agree with the caller. I think he's still in that big body X mold.
Yeah.
But for a big body X, he's a little bit more fluid than a N'Keal Harry, a Keon Coleman.
I told you, he reminds me a little bit of Tet.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously, he's not at the same level. He's not quite as big. He's not
as
quite the route
explosive
runner.
after the
But
catch.
yeah, I'll ask you again, though. We did this last week. I might have to ask you this every week to see where you're at. 31. They're between a receiver, Denzel Boston and Chris Brazel. Who are you taking?
Go back and forth on this every day.
That's where you at today?
Denzel Boston today. Ask me
It was
again
Brazel
tomorrow.
last week. So
I know.
okay,
I told
very
you this
interesting.
is recency
Why
bias.
today? Why?
I think that the caller raises good points about it, the fluidity within his routes. I think he's a little bit more fluid than the typical bust in that mold. probably not. I think the difference between him and like a guy like Ted is after the catch, right? Like Ted is extremely explosive after the catch. I also can't really get the zone coverage metrics out of my head with Denzel Boston. They weren't great in terms of like yards per route run.
So you said you were take Boston. You're going to take Boston, and now you're giving a bunch of reasons to knock Boston.
Because this is the not. I swore off this type of receiver. I told you that.
He's
I
better
told
than Keon
myself
Coleman, though.
that I would not get geeked up about this type of receiver again. I said that.
But you're still taking him over Brazel at 31.
I guess so. Yeah. Because you know
we'll
what it
do
is.
This again next week.
And then we got to move on because I want to get into our roster reset. You know what it is, Alex, is that I didn't have enough conviction in myself back in 2019 to tell Bill Belichick that he made the wrong draft pick. Like, I was like still too new to this and I was too raw, right? Like, I just couldn't do that. But I knew that there was something weird about N'Keal Harry and how the way that he moved and that he was heavy. And, you know, the caller mentioned punt returning. N'Keal Harry had a punt or a kickoff at Arizona State where he like reversed field on one, where he like ran
I remember that,
reverse field and went all the way up the sideline for like a 90+ yard kick or punt return. I can't remember if it was a kick or a punt. And at the time, I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. But then if you go back and watch it, you see how slow he's moving as he's trying to reverse field. And you recognize, like, oh, yeah, that's not going to play in the NFL. Like, he's not going to be able to do that in the league. I just wasn't – I was a wee young lad. I wasn't, like, convicted enough to be like, no, Bill Belichick is wrong for taking this guy. Now I feel like I overcorrected. Like, now I'm like, I can't do it with these types of receivers.
But you're still taking him at 31 over Brazel.
Today I am. Yeah.
Why? I mean, ask again, why?
I think he's a little bit. I think he's stronger than Brazel.
Yeah.
And I think he's probably a little bit of a better route runner just in terms of the routes he's being asked to run. But I think that it's that play strength, the hands, like, you know, that sort of thing. Brazel is all separation, right? Like, he's got speed. He's got really good sink and cut for the guy his size and a guy at his height. And he's got speed. He's got burners, right? So, like, he's a guy that's going to get open.
You sound like you want to take Brazel at 31.
Of course I do. He's my favorite player in the draft.
Okay, so then you're taking Brazel at 31, not Boston.
I don't know.
You're just trying to answer both so that you're not cornered.
Yes.
Say it with some conviction.
No.
Brazel or Boston at 31? Give me some conviction.
Brazel.
There we go.
That's not enough conviction.
That was not conviction. Are we doing recency bias real quick before we do the reset? Okay. I got a safety for you. Watched safeties the other night. I know everybody's all geeked up out of Miami's more of like a nickel than a true safety. Keontae Scott ran like in the 4.2s at the pro day the other day.
Yes.
I want to talk about the other Miami safety, Jacoby Thomas.
Yeah, you like this guy.
I'm doing some research on Jacoby Thomas. And look, this isn't the be-all, end-all of a player's makeup, but this caught my attention. There's a video of him before one of the bowl games last year talking about how much he loves hitting people. And he calls the physical part of the game a lost art and says that he knows if he keeps hitting somebody, they'll eventually fold. And he'll play that game. And if you go and you watch on tape, there are games where the wide receivers are visibly afraid of him on the field. It happened with Carnell Tate.
Yeah.
You can see Carnell Tate goes to run a slant, sees Jacoby Thomas is waiting for him and pulls up. But Jacoby Thomas is not just a big hitter. He can play on the back end. He can lurk. Tremendous on-ball production. 6 pass breakups, 5 interceptions last year. Got his hands on the football 11 times playing deep. He does that because he's really good instincts. Now, he's overly aggressive sometimes. I think he trusts his instincts too much sometimes, and that leads to some blown assignments and some missed tackles. His missed tackle rate is definitely higher than what you want from a safety, and that's why he's a projected 5th-round pick.
Yeah.
But if you can kind of coach that out of him and hone his instincts a little bit, he is a missile flying around out there, whether it be in coverage, whether it be making plays at the line of scrimmage against the run, or like you watch him blow up screens. And more important, it's what's the word that we've associated with this defense more than anything else that they keep using? Violence. He is
violent.
I mean, the mentality, and you look a little more at his background. He looks up to Sean Taylor. He talked to Ray Lewis before games. Like, he's got, and if you go watch the interview, he's not all excited talking about this. He's just sitting there like, I'll hit people till they don't want to be hit anymore. Like, it's just ingrained in him. Yeah. I love that. The mentality's there. Playmaking abilities there. Yeah, he's got to hone his skills a little bit. He's probably a third safety for his first year or two. Well, he figures that out. I don't think he's somebody that can play 80, 90% of the time right away. But they don't need him to do that right away.
Yeah.
They need a safety, really a guy that's more of a long-term option, can be a depth player right away. I really like Jacoby Thomas. He's a ton of fun, and it's my whole thing. I've wanted them to add playmakers on defense. He's more of a playmaker than he is a safe player, but I'm okay with that. And the violent element is just it. Again, if you go and watch, there's one play, it's on Twitter, where, here it is right here, Carnell Tate is like visibly afraid of him.
So, want to hear some of the things I wrote down about him?
Sure.
So this is in my pros category in my spreadsheet, which I'm hoping by at least like a week before the draft I can share with everybody.
Dane Brugler's Beast is coming out April 8th. That's what you got to beat.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to beat it, honestly.
Okay.
I have like a lot of offensive linemen to watch over the next couple
Fair
days,
enough.
like 20 probably. But I wrote downhill, urgent, violent striker.
Yeah.
Right. So those are just some of the buzzwords or keywords that I have in here. I think what I like a lot about him too, I don't know if he's a deep part of the field player. Like, I don't know if he's like a true free safety or a guy that's going to be able to play over the top, but he's really good in like short zones, whether they're
robber.
robbers, hook curls. Obviously, like when you play the hook zone, which is the middle of the field zone as a safety or a linebacker, you carry a lot of verticals from the other side of the formation, because when they're in 3-by-1, it becomes like almost a match with the third receiver on the three receiver side. So like if that guy runs like a crosser or something like that, then it's that person's job to carry that player vertical. I think he can do all those types of things. I think he can play robber. I think he can play down in the box. I think that he's wants to play down in the box. Like when he's up top, he fills and gets his hat in the box against the run extremely quickly. I just think he's a little bit stiff / doesn't necessarily have that sideline to sideline range to play him in the deep part of the field. But if you play him correctly, if you put him in the right role, he's going to be a really good player in the league. Like, there's no doubt about that.
In or out for the Patriots?
In, yeah. I think that he's more complementary to Craig Woodson and Kevin Byard as a third safety than he is a true starter in their system, because they want their guys to cover so well down the field. But he could be somebody that is, a really good box nickel safety for them for a really long time, and then maybe they just find somebody else to play with Woodson in the deep part of the field.
Yeah, that's kind of my idea, is he kind of sort of becomes a matchup player.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, you got a recency bias guy?
Yes. Keon Crawford from Auburn, the pass rusher.
Okay.
From Auburn. This guy.
So the other Auburn guy, we're talking about the other side.
Auburn guy, because I'm not the biggest Keldrick Falk guy. I'm not going to lie.
I don't know if it's because I haven't watched him, because I don't think he's going to fall to him, or I didn't like what I saw, but yeah, I can't get excited about him.
Stiff. I don't like guys that are super stiff, unless you're going to play them as like a true hand in the dirt end, like the Patriots used to do, and they're like in a 3-4.
Yeah.
I just don't love him. I don't love him outside of the tackle. Crawford is just, that guy's explosiveness is like in all capital letters, right? Like just off the ball, great bend, inside out with pure speed. So like you have to set him inside out. He's going to win around the corner. If you overset to him outside, he's going to win inside. He's just got speed, great bend. I think there's some love for him with the Patriots as well. I think that there's he's one of those guys that I kind of came to a little bit later in this edge class, because there's so many of these players, and I was like, why isn't this guy in this like third round cluster with all these other raw toolsy dudes? Yeah, he should be at Auburn. They call it the buck roll at Auburn, and it's a very labor intensive role. Like, there's a lot you have to cover. You have to be able to drop. You have to be able to rush off the edge. You have to be able to stop the run. You play a lot of overhang on the strong side, so you're forcing runs back to the inside, but you're also, having to rush the passer and drop into coverage. It's probably, one of their more complex roles on their defense, and he played it last year. And played it at a pretty high level. So he can cover, he can drop off the line of scrimmage and coverage. He can play a little bit further out in space. But the most important thing is that speed and bend off the edge. And I don't know if I'm going to be right about this, but I think that they're going to want guys with pure speed off the edge. Like, I think that that's going to be, the Harold Landry model, right? Like, I think that that's going to be the mold that they go towards. And I think Crawford, I know there's a lot of love for like Malachi Lawrence too, like, those types of guys. Lawrence is probably like top 50 maybe even higher.
Yeah.
And then, Crawford's kind of like the day 2 guy in that sort of mold. The other one that I had quickly on the recency bias list, we were talking about this before the show, Marlon Klein from Michigan, the tight end.
Good one.
German-born, so that would be good for us because that's a home market for us. But most importantly, with Marlon Klein, 4.61 in the 40-yard dash, really good speed to run the seam, really good on crossing routes. I know it was New Mexico, so I'm going to put that caveat on it. But he had a really strong performance against them in the opener last year for Michigan, where I think he had almost 100 receiving yards in the game. It was just kind of everywhere. I think his blocking technique, his pass catching, all that needs some work because he's raw. He's new to the sport. But he gives great effort in the run game. He's got toughness. He's got physicality. He's got straight line speed. He just is a ball of clay right now that needs some molding.
Yeah, a ton of awesome tools. 6'6", 250, ran the 4.61 like you talked about, 36-inch vertical. You just got to learn the game.
Yeah.
Got to learn the game. Came into it late, but if you're going to take a flyer on a day 3 tight end, like, he can be coached up. There's a lot there to work with. There aren't going to be many things physically he can't do. It's just about getting his technique to the point where he's able to do them. But I like him. I'm with you. I wouldn't be mad if they took him.
Okay, let's do this reset on defense. It's okay. I didn't expect us to take as long as on this as the offense. It's just not as exciting. All right, I like defense, but I understand. And then
when are we doing the special teams reset?
Good question. We can do that next week.
We actually need to do that. There's relevance there.
Punter's the only relevant.
Kick returner.
Okay, fine. But like returners, like you're gonna draft that player to play something else, and then secondarily is gonna be.
You watch Caden Wetchen yet?
Oh, so you want to draft somebody just to play returner, just to return kicks?
Well, Barryon Brown maybe was a little bit to tap into as a receiver.
Okay.
I don't rule it out.
All right,
Adam Randall.
Let's go through this.
Strengthens the case for other players.
We got 30 minutes to go through this, so let's do it. Let's start with edge.
Yeah.
Biggest need on the board, I think, for the Patriots. I think you can make that case pretty easily. Draymond Jones, Harold Landry, Elijah Pronder, Braden Swinson, Jesse Luketa, and Amari Gaynor, who was at North Carolina with Drake, is still on the roster as well. I think the 2 questions that I have with edge right now for the Patriots. Number 1, what is their type of edge look like? I just said that I think it's going to be the speed 250, 255 kind of guy. I don't anticipate it. I know that there's a lot of mocks out there. Kedrick Falk, Zion Young, some of these bigger edge rushers that, are 265 plus. I don't think that's going to be their thing. Now, they did just sign Jones, who's 260, 265. But I feel like if they're going to draft somebody, I think Harold Landry is kind of like their archetype, right? That's their dream sort of mold, is a guy like Landry. But what do you think? Are you with me on that, or do you think that it's different?
I mean, I think it's tough because we're just 1 year in, and on one hand, we have 1 year to go off of, like, these are the kind of players they want, but they didn't do so much last year. Is there another archetype with Landry they want to have in their defense that they couldn't add last year? And do they want to add somebody who's going to be more sturdy against the run on the edge that they just didn't have a chance to add? But no, if they're trying to upgrade the pass rush, it's going to be players like Harold Landry, maybe a little bit bigger, to help alleviate some of those things against run, but they're not going to add like 280-pound, hand in the dirt guys. So
tried that with Keon White, did not work.
Right. No. So I'm with you on that.
Second facilitation question on the edge: who are going to be the better options relative to the board? Right. It's the whole value of the board thing. The edges at 31 or the edges at 65.
I think there's a real case at 63.
60, I don't know why I wrote down 63.
Especially if you move up. Like, if you talk about the 50s, they're just probably going to miss that second run. But again, Lawrence, Akis, Moore for Michigan, I don't think the drop-off is that significant versus the drop-off. The drop-off at tackle is massive. I mean, like, if you don't take the tackle at 31, you're probably waiting till 95 at that point. I don't think there really is anybody at 63.
Right.
At receiver, it's definitely a significant drop-off from 31 to 63. Absolutely so. But there is a drop-off. And if they want to get a linchpin edge rusher, like, I like some of those guys on day 2, but there is a difference.
Yep.
There is a difference.
Sure.
So that's kind of the big question to me. It's also like, do they double up, right?
Right.
If you're going to double up, maybe you say, okay, we're going to go second round and third round. So we use our first round pick on something up. If you're going to, but maybe it's first round and like fourth round or fifth round, right? That kind of thing. So they can approach it a number of different ways, but they definitely need at least one guy, maybe 2. I think they can get by with 1. 2, you're feeling really good. Some of that is like Where do you think they are with Braden Swinson? Do you think they're going to really keep working on Braden Swinson and developing him?
I look at it, they probably will draft one.
Yeah.
Because they have Jones and Landry, and then I think you have to really like Ponder.
No, Ponder to me, like, he's going to make the team, and he's
like, you don't walk away from
rotation.
Anthony Jennings, and like if you don't have hopes for Ponder, and then
the question
you
for
at least
me,
want to leave a door ajar for Braden Swinson to step through.
Well, that's where I'm at if they're going to double up, right?
Yeah.
Braden Swinson was a 5th-round pick last year.
It's kind of the same thing.
If you have conviction that somebody's better than Braden Swinson, you take him. But that means like you're willing to move on. Braden Swinson was a one and done, and maybe that's how they feel. Maybe they got him in here last year, and okay, we saw what there is, but we feel like we need some more to work with, and like that could certainly be something. I don't love the idea of using a 5th-round pick on another project player when if he's just going to give you what Braden Swinson's giving you, just work with Braden Swinson, draft somebody, draft different position.
Right. So I think. To me, I actually like the options at 63 a little bit better. Not off of talent, but
who's your guy in that range?
I really like Akis too. Okay. I really like Derek Moore a lot as well. I'm now in on Crawford. I don't know, 63 might be a little bit high, but I don't know if you're going to get him at 95.
No, the 63 guys to me, I don't think Lawrence is in that range. Lawrence is a trade back in the first. I don't even know you're trading up for him.
Yeah.
To me, 63 is Akis, Moore, Sutton.
I am a little bit interested to see where our Mason Thomas ends up falling to.
Do you think they're going to be in on Thomas?
I don't know. He hasn't had a great pre-draft process. I'm not saying anything to do with off the field or anything like that, but he didn't test great. He kind of was a little bit stiffer through some of the field work at the combine. It wasn't this pure athlete that shows up on tape with the hustle and the motor that shows up on film. I thought that the movement skills were a little underwhelming. So maybe that falls a little bit, but I don't know if all the way to 63. But if you're asking me, like, what, because it's always we do this all the time. It's the right way to look
Thomas,
at it.
Akis, Moore, Sutton.
Say that again.
Thomas, Akis, Moore, Sutton. That's the order they are on the big board.
I would probably go Thomas, Akis, Moore, Sutton.
So your consensus. Okay.
Yeah.
I would go Akis, Moore, Thomas, Sutton.
I could be convinced that to flip Akis and Thomas.
Again, it goes, maybe I'm reading too into it, but they keep saying the word. He's so violent.
Yeah.
You can see the wrestling background. His motor doesn't stop, and he's trying to run through people on every play. And the little bit you hear about him often is the same way in the weight room. He's the same way in the film. Like, the guy just doesn't stop. Like, he's always trying to get better. He's always working through the challenge, pushing the next thing. That just feels like their kind of guy.
So, at 31 at receiver, you're looking at, and this is hopefully looking at,
right,
Denzel Boston, Casey Concepcion, Omar Cooper Jr.
I don't think all three of them are there. I don't think
I'm not
none
saying
of
that
them
all
are there.
three are going to be there. I'm just talking about the drop-offs, right?
Okay.
So that group, let's just leave it at that for now. Maybe they're as high on Brazel as I am. I don't know.
Yeah.
Then at tackle, it's two guys, right? It's Miller and Ionichor, and then
you're going
cliff.
right down to 95,
and then an absolute cliff.
There is no.
So
what are the odds you think they think Tiernan or Dunker can play tackle?
I would say that it's probably more likely they think Tiernan can play tackle.
Okay.
Because he's a better athlete.
If we're gonna have this conversation, that would
Dunker's
be the one.
just so clunky. I can't see him being able to move well enough to
so
play
in
tackle.
theory, if there is a tackle for them at
it could
63, it would be Tiernan.
Yeah, they could be the Indianapolis Colts, who have two tackles with a sub 33-inch arm starting for them. I think Raymond and Brandon Smith. I don't know if Smith's still there. Raymond's definitely still there.
I don't know, but the point, just if we're gonna have the conversation, like, that's the drop off.
So the drop off at tackle we can accept drops off a cliff.
Yeah.
At wide receiver from the Boston, Cooper, Casey Concepcion, you're going to have to draft Brazel because he's not making it to 63.
Right,
so you're going to have to draft him somewhere in there.
Right. Chris Bell, Jeremy Bernard.
To the Skylar Bells, the Ted Hurst, those.
Bryce Lance.
That's a pretty significant. I think that's a much bigger drop off too.
Then at edge, yes, absolutely.
So that I think is really part of that conversation as well. Going on to defensive tackle. Here, interior guys, Milton Williams, Christian Barmore, Corey Durden, Joshua Farmer, Leonard Taylor, Jeremiah Farms, and Eric Gregory.
Good room.
Still on the roster. Good room.
Good room.
Obviously, when you have Milt and Christian Barmore, it's a good room. Corey Durden, I'm excited about. I think they found somebody with Durden, and I think Joshua Farmer deserves some more, leash.
Did you say Leonard Williams too? Like,
Yep.
I want Leonard Williams to get a shot.
LT3 on this list as well.
Big block field goal last year.
The one question I have with the D tackle group is replacing Tonga. And do they need to replace Tonga with Tonga? Like, do they need a space eater out of this group?
I would like to see them add a true nose tackle. Even to just
and it's a great nose tackle class.
It doesn't have to be a big investment, but Evan.
Big Citrus?
Justify it for me, please. How do I make this argument? I'm trying, I can't, but he's such a fun player and he's so good.
Yeah.
How do they justify that? Can they take Dominique Orange at 63?
No. They could take him at 95.
He's not going to be there at 95.
I don't know if that's true.
No, if you want the guy at 95, there's two guys I like there. Darnell Jackson from Florida State, but he's not even really a nose tackle. Like, he's listed at 320. He carries 320.
Yeah, I think he actually weighed in at 315 at the combine.
And I like him, but he's not
got like 35-inch arms.
Right, he's all limbs. Like, he's not the size. Like, he's not that wide.
Yeah.
The other one is another one of my favorite nicknames, just happens to be The Godfather.
The Godfather.
Dante Corleone.
I thought you were going to go there.
6 foot, 340. Now, I do wonder, and I'll be interested to see when we get the Beast and when we get the Bob McGinn stuff.
About the blood clots.
Right, because so he had some blood clot issues that kept him off field in 24.
Yeah.
The Patriots have dealt with that twice in the last 10 years here with David Andrews and Christian Barmore.
Dealt with it well. Yeah.
They might look at that and say, hey, it's a situation that's more manageable for us because we know what to look for. They may also look at it and say, we've been dealing with this. We don't want to deal with it again.
Right.
But, now he's just a run stopper.
Yes.
Again, 6 foot, 340. He's an old school 2-gapper. But
spoiler alert, I took The Godfather in my mock draft.
Oh. Where? 125 or 96?
I took him later. I took him at 131 maybe.
All right. Yeah.
Because
it's a little bit off, but not bad.
I think the blood clots are going to be an issue.
Okay.
Not because I think that they're still. Just medically.
It's just something teams look at.
He's going to have a medical flag for some teams.
Yeah.
He is only a run player. Like he's not offering you anything as a pass rusher.
He's so good at it though.
He's very, very good at it. But just off the history of the draft.
No, he is the kind of guy that traditionally falls. That is fair.
If you're only going to play first down, goal line, short yardage situations, and this would be the one little thing I would say about Big Citrus that I think that he could fall to 95.
Yeah.
Those guys are situational players in the league.
You don't think Citrus has a little bit of that, like,
I think he has a little bit
honestly, kind of Tonga, like that little bit of pass rush thing where you play him in the intermediate downs and he's not going to be out of place?
Absolutely, but I don't think that's still a 45% player.
Here's the thing. The way Tonga's market kind of exploded in free agency, how many teams are looking for it's copycat league? Patriots made the Super Bowl.
Okay, but let me bring
looking for a guy
another
like that?
counter.
Okay.
In this draft,
yeah,
there's a lot of these guys at the top too.
That is true.
Kaden McDonald, Lee Hunter,
Banks,
those types of players.
Yeah.
So only so many teams are going to be in the market for nose tackle.
Yeah.
So that it goes from here to here. Then now they're situational players. It goes to here, and now he has a blood clot history. It goes to there, right? So there's only going to be a handful.
I thought we were talking about
either
Orange.
one.
Okay.
I think Orange doesn't have the medicals, but
I don't think he gets to 95. Frankly, if he gets to 95, I'm going to be upset they didn't trade up for him.
I think there are situations where these types of guys, because of the style of player that they
Yeah.
are, there's going to be 90% of teams are going to look at Big Citrus and the Godfather as we're not playing these guys on third down.
Would you take Dominique Orange at 95 if you're the Patriots?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
Would you trade up for him in the 80s?
No.
Even if it's a small one of those 6-round picks?
Okay, fine.
Okay.
If you're gonna, I'm all for getting rid of the 6-round picks.
I know.
You know that. I'll trade all 4 of them. I don't care.
just wonder if they're gonna just keep trying to add these small athletic defensive tackles like Zane Durant and Caden Proctor and
Caleb Proctor. Caleb Proctor is a hell of a player. That guy's awesome.
He's getting, because of small school, I see him getting some Milton Williams comps.
Yeah. It tracks. I thought Zane Durant was a little bit underwhelming. I can see it, obviously with the athleticism and all that stuff. Caleb Proctor deserves.
Is
some
he
Milton
a
Williams
sneaky
comps.
top 100 pick?
Easily.
Okay, 134 on a big board right now.
I think he's way higher in real life. I mean, that guy can really rush the passer.
I want Dominique Orange. I want them to add nose tackle. I want Dominique Orange. That's probably not going to happen. If they took Dante Corleone with one of those 4th-round picks, I think a lot of people would be annoyed by it. I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, so Timmy Keenan from Alabama is
that's another one.
If you want to draft him and maybe
he's a real true nose tackle. He doesn't move.
It's 400 pounds. Yeah, I don't think he was weighed in on that, but looking at him, I think he weighed in at 327, but I think he's bigger than that.
He doesn't move, but you're not moving him.
Orange weighed in at 340.
And he moves like that.
Yeah.
Can I get a little nuts?
Oh God.
Is there a little teensy tiny bit Vince Wilfork in
there?
there?
I thought you were gonna say Vita Vea.
No.
You're nuts.
Like if he maxes out.
You're nuts.
If he maxes out.
You're nuts. But even Vince, like, talking about the nose tackles falling.
Yeah.
Vince fell because he was a
That's
nose
true.
tackle.
Yeah, that's true.
That was 20
years ago.
Yeah, they fall.
Who is your comp for Dominique Orange?
I don't know. That's a good one.
That's what I'm saying. There's not many guys like that, so it's hard to comp them.
The only
I don't
guy-
want to use Vince
because
but
he's not Vea. Like he's not.
No.
But that's the type of player. Like there's not that many guys that.
that's
exist
what I'm
in the
saying.
league
It's
right
hard
now.
to do.
He's 340 pounds.
And he's moving like that.
Yeah.
Well, he was 400 something in high school.
I believe it. He's a big freaking dude, and he's short too, so he's kind of like just wide and stubby. And he's a big guy.
But that's how you get these big guys that can move because he was 400 in high school, so even if he's playing at 340, he's playing at 60 pounds lighter than he used to. So naturally, he's gonna like feel quicker on his feet.
All right, inside linebackers:
Yeah.
Spillane, Ellis, Mapu, Chad Muma, KJ Britt, Otis Reese. I would assume that KJ Britt is here to take some of the special team snaps that Tavai and Gibbons left behind. So they kind of replaced maybe the kicking game production from those guys with him. Obviously, I think it's kind of I don't even know if sneaky is the right word anymore. Like this is kind of a need.
It's the same as tight end.
Yeah.
You probably want to get a second guy next to Spillane, ideally a coverage player, but are you drafting somebody with a lower ceiling who maybe you're trying to highlight certain abilities or traits and just get the second guy, or is it this guy's going to start off as the second guy and then eventually take over for Spillane, but that's a bigger investment. So just to put names to it.
Right. So who's my facilitation question was just who's your favorite?
In the draft?
Yes. Who your favorite?
Jacob Rodriguez.
Well, your favorite linebacker for the Patriots in the draft?
Jacob Rodriguez.
Okay.
But
so I think it's too high to draft Jacob Rodriguez.
I wouldn't be the most surprised person in the world if they took him at 30. Who would surprise you more, Kaden McDonald or Jacob Rodriguez at 31?
Kaden McDonald.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
If we go a little later, so the thing is, like, if you draft Jacob Rodriguez, he's here to eventually replace Spillane.
Yes.
Whereas, Kyle Lewis, Harold Perkins,
different players,
Eric Gentry from USC, Lander Barton from Utah. These are pure coverage players that are going to fill a role, but when Spillane gets a little older and his contract's up, I don't think we're going to look at them and be like, okay, like you have the next guy in the building.
Sure. So I think that's the biggest. It's just like tight end, like you said. That's the hardest part. It's kind of actually, I would say, a lot like safety too. Are you drafting as a complementary player to what you currently have, or are you drafting to replace what you currently have? And those two things, I think, are
not
hard.
even replace, fill the pipeline. Because I don't think you're drafting somebody to like.
That's a nicer way to put it.
You're not going to compete with Robert Spillane this year, with Hunter Henry this year.
So if you are drafting strictly to replenish the pipeline, and just also taking into account where, right?
I mean, Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles are freaks.
Like I don't think.
Real quick, do you buy the Isaiah Simmons comps for Arvell Reese?
No, I think he's a better pass rusher than Isaiah Simmons ever was. Jacob Rodriguez and Jack Golday are both really fun players. I think they're going to go too high, and I put Anthony Hill in that category as well. I
put CJ Allen's going to go top 20.
You think he's going to go that high?
Or top 25. He's not going to go where they can. He's going to be off the board at 31.
I kind of liked Anthony Hill better.
Some of the stuff
Anthony Hill makes a lot more plays.
Some of the stuff that's come out about Allen has really convinced me. Like, do you know he was calling the plays for the Georgia defense at times?
I believe that, but like there were times.
Teams are going to drool all over
There were times when I was watching him though, and I actually watched him. He's one of the guys before the combine that I had studied, and I watched him, and I was like, wait, like who am I supposed to be watching? Like he doesn't make a lot of plays, but then when you start to watch him over the course of tapes, he makes a lot of the dirty plays. Like he's a lot of these like, oh, he filled that gap, which forced the running back to bounce to this gap, and then this guy made the tackle, right? That sort of thing. Whereas Anthony Hill is like a playmaking linebacker, so like he's around the ball.
I'll say Allen's like the 20th overall pick on the consensus mock right now.
That's crazy.
I think the dirty work, the between the ears stuff. He's an incredibly smart player. He's a coach's linebacker. Like some coach is going to go to the GM and be like, "This is the guy. I'm going to like put my fist on the table. This is the guy.
So I really like Rodriguez and is it Golday?
Golday, I think.
Yeah. But I think it's tough to find a spot to draft those guys. Like I think 31 is really high.
What if they move back a little bit?
I guess if they move back, I don't think either one of them is going to be there still at 63.
No, I don't think they're going to be within move-up range at 63. Maybe Golday.
So then you get into like the Lewises and the Perkinses who are different kinds of players. You know, I'd also put like Caleb Elam's-Orr sort of in that
Barham,
category.
A lot of people like Barham.
So Barham to me is a pass rusher though. Like, like he's an on-the-ball linebacker. Like he's a stand-up 3-4 outside linebacker. The two guys that I really like though, if you want to replenish the pipeline for Robert Spillane, Aiden Fisher, and is it Bryce Bocher from Oregon?
He's like a safety, isn't he?
He's a linebacker. He played safety at the beginning of his college career at Oregon. He's playing linebacker now. If you're just
you think he's a potential starting linebacker?
And yeah, I do.
Okay.
If you these guys are probably 4th round picks, right?
Yeah. So who's the first one you said? Fisher?
Yeah, Aiden Fisher from Indiana is really intriguing to me. If you're strictly trying to draft to be the next Robert Spillane, like if you draft Aiden Fisher this year and you attach Aiden Fisher to Robert Spillane's hip for the next year, I think by 28, 27 even possibly, Aiden Fisher is ready to be the Mike.
Okay.
You know, I think he can wear the green dot. I think he did that for Indiana. And I thought that he moved a lot better than some of the knocks on him suggest. Like some people think he's a terrible athlete. I think he's a fine enough athlete to play linebacker, Mike linebacker specifically. So those are the guys that I would look at if like you're really trying to do what you're trying to do at tight end and right tackle and kind of.
What if you're just trying to find a coverage linebacker and hey, this guy's going to kind of be an upgrade over Christian Ellis and that's that?
Probably Perkins.
Okay.
But I like Kyle Lewis too.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take Kyle Lewis top 100. How about Justin Jefferson?
I haven't watched him yet.
Okay.
That's deep.
I know, but his name's Justin Jefferson, and that's like your all. Is there a prospect you've studied? Like, he's like 1-1 on your all-time big board since you've been doing this, right?
Probably. And I never understood why Justin Jefferson was he like 22 overall
He's in
that
the
draft?
20s somewhere in there. Yeah.
Like I was like,
the
this,
Diggs pick.
This makes no sense.
Well, you got another Justin Jefferson to watch.
All right, corners. Christian Gonzalez, Carlton Davis, Marcus Jones, Chucky Trees, Charles Woods, Kendall Vidor, Kobe Minor, Brandon Crossley. And I put this guy last because I feel like he's a forgotten soul. Marcellus Dial, who was having a nice training camp last year, blew out his knee, right?
I mean, he was a core special teams player for them in 24.
And was like competing for snaps at corner, behind Marcus Jones and Davis and Gonzo.
He's still in the mix to me. He's still in the mix.
Me too. I put him in bold because I wanted to make sure that I don't forget about Marcellus Dial.
Yeah.
Like I think Marcellus Dial could contribute to this team. Facilitation question. How sneaky of a need is or isn't cornerback? Because I feel like this is the one that we get a lot of calls, we get a lot of emails. Sneaky need. Is it a sneaky need?
So when everybody was saying like 2 months ago, it's a sneaky need, tight end, and it wasn't sneaky because everybody was saying it.
It's a glaring need.
I kept saying it was corner.
Yeah.
And I think it's become, and here's the thing. On the surface, it's not a need. You still have Christian Gonzalez, Carlton Davis, Marcus Jones. That's a really good group that's coming back. But especially on the boundary, like, to your point, Dial can play the slot. And he's probably going to be here on special teams. So you have depth there. I wasn't crazy about Craig Woods last year. He was fine. Charles Woods, clearly.
Yeah.
I think you can do better as a third boundary corner, which kind of is an important role, especially with Carlton Davis' injury history. But the bigger picture thing is, assuming they pay Christian Gonzalez, Carlton Davis is going into the final year of guaranteed money on his contract. Are they going to pay two boundary corners big money with Marcus Jones also on a contract, like a real contract?
Yeah.
Or is that a spot they're going to have earmarked for somebody on a rookie deal? And by the way, for everybody saying, well, that's assuming they pay Gonzalez. If they don't pay Gonzalez, it's 1,000,000,000% a need. It probably becomes their biggest need. So odds are they're going to need a starting boundary corner in 27.
Yes.
This is if you can get that guy this year and he is that third backup boundary now, learns, and then you just slot him into the spot next year, that prevents you from being backed in a corner where you have to take a corner higher than you want in next year's offseason, whether it's paying somebody who would probably be in the draft or whatever. So
I hear what you're saying.
Corner is a big time need for me.
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
However, just to play devil's advocate, you want to do this at right tackle.
Yeah.
You want to do this at tight end.
Yeah.
I think you want to do this at linebacker.
Yep.
and then you probably want to do this at corner.
Okay, and at safety.
And at safety. So that's 5 positions, and I know that they have 5 picks within the first 4 rounds.
Yeah.
You could theoretically do it where you're drafting a tackle, tight end, linebacker, safety, corner, and say that you did it, but that doesn't mean you did it,
So,
right?
all right, if I had to rank those,
Yes.
right tackle's obviously number 1 first and foremost.
Yeah.
I'd probably be between tight end and corner for second. Safety, I'm not as worried about. And part of that is this class. I think you can get a safety later. I think there's generally good safeties in the draft. Colleges are doing a pretty good job of putting them out.
Yeah.
And then what was the 5th one?
Linebacker. Off-ball
No,
linebacker.
I said, I think Christian Ellis is a fine player. I actually don't. KJ Britt can maybe play. You can be at least good for the depth there. And look, it's not to say ideally you would have no needs going into an offseason. You could just have your pick. But, like, they're going to have 1 or 2 needs next year. That's going to be every year. So what would you rather be a need, linebacker or corner?
Corner. I think that the issue that
You would rather have corner left unfilled?
I would rather. Well, they're not going to have it unfilled because Gonzo's not going anywhere. So
Davis might be.
Okay, but Davis might be. But now you're looking to acquire a number 2 corner when you have a top 3-4 corner in the game on the other side.
I guess, yeah.
I think that it's very difficult to check all of those boxes where there's this draft, and we're going to get to it at safety in a second. It's a pipeline draft, right?
Yeah, I also kind of feel better. Maybe this is some of it. What do you feel better about, a rookie corner or a rookie linebacker? Like having to play a somewhat significant role. Rookie linebacker.
I don't know. It depends on who gets hurt. Like, is Gonzo getting hurt? Because then I don't feel good about anything.
For 27. Like, you're either your number 2 corner.
Well, am I drafting the corner in the first round?
Probably going to have to.
Because whoever, like, slips through the cracks here this year is going to be a top pick next year, right? So, like, if you don't draft a corner this year, that projects to actually
this is what I'm saying, right?
I'm not talking about drafting a corner in the 6th or 7th round. I'm talking about
next year you'd have to take one high,
right? But you're gonna have to take somebody high,
right? I would rather take a shot on a corner this year,
but you also are taking somebody high next year off of the assumption that you are officially moving on from Carlton Davis, which you might be doing.
Yeah.
But if he has a good year and he stays healthy, then you might not need to do that.
I guess that's true. That's fair.
So I just look at corner as a place where they have decent depth as it is, and they obviously have really good top end talent as it is. And I think that's what I'm willing to let.
I'd still like to see them improve the third boundary guy, and you can do that on day 3. Guys like Massis or Demings or Dixon or Marshall, but
right. Okay. I just think that there's going to be one position at least that slips through the cracks this year. You can't do it all, and I'd much rather worry about corner down the line, especially when you have a trio that's as good as you currently have.
I'd rather worry about linebackers. I just think they're easier to get.
Maybe I just like the linebackers a little bit better.
I like I was going to say that too. I kind of like some, like, again, Dalen Everett would be so cool here. That would be such a good fit. Yeah, guy can play. Except apparently against the receivers we like.
Oh, so like against the good players. The last one, safety.
Yeah.
Kevin Byard, Craig Woodson, Delp Pettis, Mike Brown, John Saunders, Brennan Schooler, if you want to put him in here. This to me is the biggest question of the entire draft outside of the A.J. Brown of it all for the Patriots. Are you drafting safety for an immediate contributor, or are you drafting safety for future starter, fits the profile of their safety? I wrote in parentheses immediate contributor, big nickel, right? Like, are you drafting a guy to be the big nickel box safety that's complementary to Kevin Byard and Craig Woodson, or are you drafting a guy that's going to start next to Craig Woodson once Byard ages out?
Yeah, see, this is the one for me, and I like the safety class, where, and some of it is like, if you're just drafting a third, and I want them to do more 3 safety stuff, but you're also going to do a lot of 3 corner stuff because they like Marcus Jones, and he's going to be on the field.
Yeah.
And I don't know how often you're going to be in dime.
Right.
So that is definitely a more rotational role. So you draft somebody this year, if you draft them high enough to be a pipeline player, they're probably not going to play a lot this year. Kind of want that out of your higher picks. This is one where I would more draft the third guy, kick it down the road. The other thing is
there's a lot of slot nickel defenders in this draft. And some of them,
well, see, I don't think if they're going for third safety, I don't think they're going to target the slot nickel because they have Marcus Jones. I think they're going to, when they want to go like 3 safety to get bigger, when they want to try to counter teams that have like 2 good pass catching tight ends, right?
Yeah.
That kind of guy. So that's where you get into.
That's the the Jalen Kilgores of the world,
Right.
and Treadon Stukes from Arizona,
Jacoby Thomas and
right. But those guys, I feel like there's a lot of that type of player.
So but that's not a pipeline player. I think we agree on that.
Correct.
So here's the other thing, and maybe I'm nuts for saying this. I know he's on a 1-year deal. I know he's 33 years old.
You don't think Byard's done after this?
I'm not trying to run Byard out the door. Maybe he is.
Yeah.
I'm not operating under the assumption that he for sure is. And if I have to go get a starting safety next year, so be it.
I think it's tough. The reason why I brought that as the facilitation question is because I don't know if there's a lot of guys that thread the needle of both of those things. I think there's a lot of cover safeties in this draft, and there's a lot of nickel safeties in this draft. And I don't know if there's a lot of guys that do both. Genesis Smith from Arizona might be the only one because he's done both. He did the nickel thing in 24, and then he did the free safety thing in 25.
So real quick, I'm going to skip the guys that are in the first round. They're not going to get Halsey. Which one?
Big box safety.
Ramsey.
Over the top, free safety.
You just said Smith. Wheatley.
Free safety.
Kilgore.
Nickel.
Clark.
Free safety.
Thomas. Jacoby
Box.
Thomas, Miami.
Box.
VJ Payne.
Box.
Michael Taffy. Texas.
Box, but I have concerns.
Probably
about
more of a
him.
special teamer.
Yeah.
Wisniewski.
Draftable? Question mark.
All right. Yeah, I didn't realize how far I was down the board here. So I was kind of wondering, are any of those guys?
I watched Wisniewski for one tape, and this always happens, and we got to wrap up. And I know we got some calls.
Are any of those guys close to hybrid? Who's the closest?
Hybrid?
Yeah. It's got to be Wheatley, Kilgore, Thomas, right? Maybe Halsey, but he's going higher.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Right.
I don't think so. The real quick thing that I was gonna say is that like when I try to go really deep at a position, you get to a point where you start to realize like, okay, there's a drop off here. I'm getting to the point of the draft now where I don't think these guys are draftable anymore. All right, let's get to these phones. You guys got to be quick. We only have a couple more minutes. Mark is in Connecticut. What's up, Mark?
Hey, Evan. I was talking to Alex off the air there about A.J. Brown. What is the reasoning why the deal can't happen now, but make it a post-June 1st? You know what I mean? Because I think the Miami Tua was released, but he's a post-June 1st, I believe, on the book. So why can't they do the same thing with A.J. Brown? Put the deal in place, whatever the picks are. If the picks are this year or next year, but he's going to be a New England Patriot, and it's a post-June 1st. I'm just curious on why they just can't get it done.
Yeah, so you can't do that. Thanks for the call, Mark. Just by the CBA, the letter of the law, you can't designate a trade post-June trade. You can do it with cuts. I haven't gotten I've asked a lot of people. I don't know. No one really has an explanation.
I think it kind of has to do with payroll, honestly, because when the Dolphins cut Tua, they're still paying him.
Yeah.
When the
Eagles,
dead money up. Right. When the Eagles trade A.J. Brown, they're not still paying him.
But they'll have dead money on their cap the same way. I don't know. I can't come up with a great reason for it, but all you need to know.
It's just the way it's structured.
It's just the way the letter of the law says you can't do that. I know this was floated by Adam Schefter recently, and he debunked that this is happening. I guess you could have a wink, wink, nudge, nudge under the table saying, hey, we got a deal, right?
Right.
It's not exactly above board to do that. I guess theoretically you could do that. Also, then you're going on the word of the two general managers.
Right. All of a sudden, some receiver twists his knee first day, because OTA start in May.
Yeah.
Some receiver twists his knee. Now this other team comes in, blows away your offer.
Right.
Everything
goes up in
flames. I'm sure they've discussed it, what it would look like post June 1, right? That doesn't mean you can't get ahead on it.
Right.
But just because the Eagles say, okay, we like your offer, we're going to take it on June 2nd. They still have the right to change their mind. Here's what I didn't know. Maybe you've looked this up in your research.
Yeah.
Does post June 1 mean midnight at June 1 it can happen, or does that mean they can't do it till June 2?
They can't do it till June 2.
Okay,
because he goes through the transaction wire on the 1st of June, right? And then it has to process, and then
they can agree to it on June 1 though.
Well, I guess they could probably agree in principle.
Yeah.
Kind of the same way that they do before the league year starts.
Yeah.
But the trade has to be processed after the 1st of June.
Okay.
It has to go through the wire after the 1st of June.
It won't be official until June 2nd if it happens.
Correct.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, but we might find out on June 1st, May 31st that a trade has been agreed to in principle. Last call here. Got to be quick. Brad in Ohio. What's up, Brad?
Hey, guys. How you doing today?
Good.
Real quick, I just wanted you to check or talk about a guard, Kalen Rutledge. I think he would be a steal. And then the linebackers from Michigan, that Wink Martindale coached them. So I know there was an Ernest Hausman. He was outstanding. I don't know what happened to him. But then Jimmy Roeder, who was injured at the end, and Kayshawn Barham was injured during the combine. So I think Jimmy Roeder would be an undrafted free agent. Max Bredesen, the fullback, an instant play. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, Brad, thanks for the call. Who was the first thing that you said?
Rutledge, super physical guard, tested well at the combine. He's going to be a top 70 pick. They're not taking good player.
Yeah.
If they take him, we start talking about is Mike going to win the team?
Yeah,
year?
one of the best run blocking guards in the draft.
Yeah.
And like tenacious, angry, finishes blocks, but has played mostly right guard, I believe, throughout his college career. And the Patriots have two $20 million guards. Not 20, but close.
I don't.
Expensive
really
guards.
good player. They shouldn't be taking a guard that high.
Barham's the new hot name.
Yeah.
You know, he's the new it guy with the draft. I really liked his pass rush tape. Like, I think he's an outside linebacker in a 3-4, you know, rushing the passer from a 2-point stance. He played a little bit off the ball. He's now getting this fringy, you know, top 100, not even fringy. He's getting top 100 buzz. I think my guy Crawford from Auburn's in a similar book where there's just, I think I've watched 20 edge rushers so far, and I'm still kind of not done. Although I did kind of feel like I hit the I watched Caden Curry from Ohio State earlier today.
Okay, yeah.
I kind of feel like I hit the wall. I was like, all right, this guy's probably
He's fine.
He's a day 3 pick.
He's a day 3 pick.
Yeah.
To some of the other guys you mentioned, Max Bredesen, really good fullback. They signed Reggie Gilliam. That shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
And then Ernest Hausman medically retired after the season, so he is not in the draft.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
All right. We'll be back next week. The owners' meetings is next week.
Yep.
So we'll have a.
Are you going?
I am not going.
Okay.
We have a Mike Vrabel press conference at the owners' meetings.
Yeah.
Robert Kraft press conference at the owners' meeting. So there'll be some stuff to talk about off that, and then of course we'll keep you updated on all the good draft stuff, and that'll be carry us for most of the time, I'm sure, on the show as it always does. But we'll see you guys then. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Hey, this is Matisse. Thanks for tuning into the show. If you really want to help us, make sure you like us wherever you get your podcasts, like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Also, make sure to follow us on the New England Patriots YouTube channel to see this show and everything else here that we do at the Patriots. Thanks a lot.